interchange. Our city attorney apparently has something to do tonight with
Ah.
election. So, I'd like to move agenda number 8 and 9 to 1 and 2. Third place. 1 and 2. So that he can be here to explain those.
Hi, Jude. What are you gonna
We want agenda number. Yeah, we need a motion.
To amend it?
Amend the agenda.
have?
You already moved to amend the agenda? Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Now we need to approve the amended agenda.
I move we approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. So, public comment. Anybody here wants to speak to something that's not on the agenda? We'll ask for public comment for specific items as they come up on the agenda. Oh, hang on, sorry. I missed one part. Consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Come on, Jess.
Are you sure?
I'm good now,
For real this time.
for real. I just need you to state your name and address for the record.
Jessica Tyler, 4th generation, 104 10th Street, Baldwin City. I just recently moved back into town. My property's been outside of town, so the item that is not on the agenda I wanted to speak to is some new recent takedown of a lot of trees, mature, healthy trees that I've noticed around town in general. This weekend, I'm sure everyone noticed like a lot of trees, boom, all at once. Before I had noticed trees just across the street from the police department. I want to say 5 good big ones, maybe 6 or 7 with the 2 littles that were cut down. And we're a tree city and have been for 24 years. And so I just was curious. I know that we put trees out every year with our tree board and stuff, but those were like long-standing, big, healthy trees, and so I'm not sure exactly why they were cut. That's above my pay grade, but I've just noticed a lot of trees coming down lately, and so I'm curious if there's anything additionally that the city's hoping to do to like build back up some of our trees, other than the tree or 2 that is always planted every year. So I know you can't speak to me at this point.
Well, no, I'll address some of your stuff. I can't address all of it. And we typically
Absolutely.
don't converse during public comment or,
Yes.
But I'll address some of it because I have gotten some calls about it. So the trees that were cut down across from the police station.
Behind the old Maple Leaf Motel area.
Correct.
Is that 2nd Street?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay, I'm like, it's a
Yeah.
small 2-block street, I know.
That's tentatively the area where we need to put our new substation because that's the only property.
For the electric,
For the electric grid.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why those were removed.
Okay.
I can't speak to the other ones that are on private property. So we
Yeah,
don't
no,
go-
absolutely.
Yeah.
It just was there, I wanna say in like less than a month time, there was a lot of big trees that came down in a short period of space and time.
Yeah.
And so it was obviously a big shock, not just to me, and, you know, we have a lot of people on Facebook. So I'd rather just address it and be like, is there something that we as a community can do to help build up some more
Biggest-
trees? Because, you know, we have the Maple Leaf Festival, which is named after trees, and
We have a tree board. that we-
right, absolutely.
So they give out, Roger, about 150 trees a year.
About 100.
Yeah, so 100 trees to replant in our community a year. So
Okay.
that's kind of our rehabilitation.
Okay, and do we follow up on any of those trees? Because, and the only reason I ask is we have gotten a few of those trees in the past few years, and 1 out of 7 has sort of made it. And I feel like I'm trying to be a good, responsible tree person, and so I didn't know, you know. Okay, all right, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Casey? I checked on the trees that got cut down there in the contractor's office, just for why that was cut down. And supposedly, I was told, whether this was an ownership or not, that they were cut down due to some electric line problems.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about those trees, so I just know that they're on private property, that's it. But I don't know anything else.
And as far as, I had 2 people come to my door measuring my trees just recently. They were doing something around town,
Yeah,
checking to see my trees and stuff.
not sure. Anybody else like to speak to anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none? We'll move on to no old business, so we'll move on to new business. First item on the agenda, I was hoping our city attorney to be here since I moved around the agenda for him. Hopefully he shows up soon. Is a proposed food truck ordinance. So I know there's some people here that like to speak to this agenda item. Just to let everybody know, there's no intended action on this agenda item. This is the first time the council has ever seen it. So the only way the council gets to discuss potential proposed ordinance changes is by bringing it to the full city council. That's the only time as a body we get to have the full discussion. So that's why
The missing is a plan.
he finally did. I had to stall a little bit. So we're gonna let our city attorney explain the ordinance, and then we'll ask for public comment. And then we'll close public comment, and we'll allow council discussion on that ordinance, okay? So, Dakota, the floor is yours.
Which ordinance are we discussing first?
Food truck
Or
ordinance.
the
Food truck.
mobile? All right. So everyone in the council should have a copy of the ordinance. The short of it is that there's, well, a number of questions that the council needs to address regarding length of time that the mobile food trucks can be open, the locations of those mobile food units, how licensing occurs, the cost for those licenses. And so the way that the ordinance is set up right now, anyone applying for a Baldwin City license has to also have already been approved by the state. There's a number of steps they have to go through with the state for licensure as well. So the purpose of our program would be to make sure that they're in compliance with the state laws regarding mobile food units, and then all of our ordinances and requirements for those units as well. The way the ordinance is written right now, the application for a permit requires a day-by-day permit up until you hit 25 days of use. It's $25 per day, up into a maximum of $500. So that'd be 20. So it would be 20 permit days until you hit the maximum of $500 that you have to pay the city for your mobile food vendor's license. That mobile food vendor permit would be requested through the city. The application has to include all the personal information regarding the applicant, their address, telephone number, government ID, driver's license, insurance. So this is another thing that the council will consider. Insurance, the standard amount of general liability insurance that's required is about $500,000 across the different municipalities. That's the standard. You could certainly do more than that, but $500,000 is the lower limit of what proof of general liability insurance is required to operate the food truck. Then all of that would go through the city staff. They would make sure, and the clerk would review that application, determine whether or not they are in fact compliant with the ordinance as written, and if it is, they are, issue them a permit. If they are not, then the permit would be denied. They can reapply, but the application fee would not be returned. It's a non-refundable fee. the ordinance contemplates that the vendor would have to have their license, their permit displayed at all times they were vending. The locations of this, you can have it obviously on a right of way where the vending side will be on the interior, not the street side, but on the sidewalk side. You can have it located on private property, depending on the zoning, type of zoning. So you'd have to have it, you couldn't have it in someone's residential one front yard, but you can certainly have it for private catering there. That's not considered part of this ordinance. It's not for public sale. If you have a catering unit, you show up at someone's home, that's allowed, and it would be covered in this ordinance. The other things that aren't covered in this ordinance, you see the kind of exceptions here, things like auctions, garage sales, if there's food at the garage sale or a private residence, lemonade stands, things like that would not be considered a mobile food vendor, would not have to go through that licensing. Obviously, brick and mortar, resident, permanent businesses, permanent restaurants would not have to go through this process either. There's a whole separate process for those establishments. The other question, like I said, is length of time a vendor can be permitted to operate. The way the ordinance is written as of now is that the period of time that the vendor can operate is for 3 hours. That would be per day. There's no time limitations as to when, though, that vendor could operate. So you could run, if you wanted to run from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., you could do that based upon this ordinance. If you wanted to run from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 6 to 9, 9 to 12 at night, you can do that underneath the ordinance. Other cities, other municipalities have a time limitations as to when, between what times you can operate. Based upon the information I've gotten from council and from staff, that had not been addressed. So if the council wants to address that, that's certainly something that can be addressed by council. But I did not include any language in there regarding the time frame that these mobile vendor units could be operated, because I didn't want to insert my judgment for what the staff and council had told me they were looking for in this ordinance. But based upon my research, the normal operating hours in the city are, you'd see them being 6 a.m. to midnight or 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. But there's a whole range of, and then often they have no operating hours. They can operate whenever you'd like to, but there are limitations on how long per day a mobile food unit can operate. And so that's how the ordinance is written right now, with the idea that it can be modified if the council wants to put limitations on how early and how late these mobile food vendors could be open. There's also a requirement that they be in good operating condition. We tried to keep that, I think, a little simpler than some other ordinances, but basically make sure that there's nothing about the mobile food vendors, the truck, or whatever that is, that the trailer that they're operating out of. It had to be in good repair, it had to be in compliance with state statutes, and that the only thing that would be able to be done from that unit would be selling food for on-site consumption or takeaway. It wouldn't be, there's nothing in here that contemplates the sale of beverages or liquor. That would be a completely different permit. This is just for foods and or non-alcoholic beverages, because there'd be a different license that would be needed for that. This is just a mobile food unit license. So with that being said, I know there are a number of variables here that the council can go over and discuss. I'm happy to answer any questions about licensure, the process to get the permit, the cost of the permit, how that all impacts the process. I will say, based upon my research and based upon what most municipalities do, I found a few others that do day-by-day permitting, but the majority of cities do a single permit either per 6 months or per year. at a fixed cost. So if you want to come for one day, or if you want to come for 365, you pay the same price for a permit. So that permit normally runs up until December 31st of the year, and then you can renew it on day 1 of the next year, or any time during that year for the remainder of the year. So that's the kind of standard operating procedure for most municipalities.
Any questions for Dakota right now? If not, anybody here from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Step 4, state your names, addresses for the record.
Wait, are we gonna get,
What?
are we gonna have a fight here? What's happening? We're moving too fast.
We're moving too fast.
You
Whoa.
startled Jerry.
I know, I'm like, hold on, Jerry. Let me sloth it up here
Let's
for
do
you.
this, that's it, baby, do it right.
There we go. Is that better? Jessica Tyler, 104 10th Street, owner of Flatlanders Pizzeria. We used to be a brick and mortar. Now we are, we've been strictly mobile for the last 4 years, I believe it's been now. Do you want us to just go one by one?
That's
Is
fine.
that easiest for you guys?
That's fine.
Okay, I am very glad that you guys are finally setting some like requirements, some guidelines for that. I know that when I started my food truck, when I closed up and decided to go that other way, I called, the city didn't really have a whole lot of guidelines, so that it was like, okay, we'll figure this out together. So I'm happy to see that that made it to the agenda finally, because there's a lot of great food trucks out there, and they're coming to Baldwin more and more all the time, which hence we're having this. So the first thing I want to address is kind of like what you were saying about the cost, instead of doing it by day. As a food truck vendor for myself, it makes more sense to charge a one-time higher fee. A few reasons why. One, I don't have to worry about trying to get a hold of someone. Is it the 5-day waiting period? Is it gonna be over a holiday? You know, there was a lot of that stipulation. So instead, if I fill out the form one time, you guys have all of my licensure, you know I have my insurance, you know I have my state license, all of those things. If anything, maybe like a 24-hour heads up notice, such and such food truck is gonna be in town, and this is the location that we've already sort of approved. That way city knows what's kind of going on. Because I do know when I originally set up, you know, we didn't know how to make it work. We have some really wide streets downtown, and there have been times when official and unofficial events have sort of gone on where the street has sort of grown, and so our food truck was sort of set up backwards for some of that time because we didn't know. So I'm glad that that's all being addressed. Also, when you pay a one-time fee that's a little bit more than the $25, you're gonna be more invested in that community. You're gonna want to come back more often. If you want to come back in food trucks, word of mouth is really what makes you or breaks you. And so if you have a good reputation in an area, you're gonna continue to come back. You're gonna build clientele, repeat clientele. Not only good for the food truck, but also good for the community. People don't just come from out somewhere for something different, for one thing for the night. They also then stop at the grocery store, Dollar General. They, you know, do whatever other things. They stop and get a cocktail somewhere, but they don't generally come to town, pick up one thing and go back out. So food trucks can be beneficial to the community in bringing dollars in. Also, another thing I wanted to sort of mention was I like the exemptions of the city-approved events, because we do have a lot of events, not just Maple Leaf, but we also have DeBash with the high school. There's Homecoming with Baker University. Third Friday, you already pay a $35 fee for Third Friday. You're a food truck coming into town now. You're paying a $25 daily fee to the city. So you're already, you know, $60 back, and you need to make that much more. Third Fridays, we're trying to get momentum in our community, but you know, our vendor list is growing, which is good for our chamber, but we haven't gotten the momentum with the people that we need. So I just wanna make sure that before any ordinances are passed, that we have time to talk to people that have the food truck business, or also businesses that are equally affected by having food trucks in, such as, we go, at the grocery store, that's a great spot. Elite Chiropractic, I know Dr. Ethan has been so good to us. If he was able to just pay a one-time $150 fee so that he could have whoever he wants set up there, because he's even offered power to us where we could plug in. So I'm sure that he would be more than happy if we could have some designated spots for food trucks to set up on some designated days. That would be easier for us too, to keep track of who's coming, when they're coming, and where they're set up. Because we don't always set up our food truck during traditional Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 hours. So you can't always get a hold of someone at the city in that moment. So I just wanted to let those points be known. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your name and address for the record?
Nikki Manbeck, 1097 North 400 Road. I did not know there was going to be so many people here, and I don't like speaking in public, so I'm just going to read what I wrote. And Jessica, some of this is a little bit of repeat, but I'm just going to read it. So thank you for hearing me this evening. I'm here to talk about the new mobile food vendor ordinance in Baldwin City. I believe the way the ordinance reads right now, we will likely lose our local food trucks to other communities, and it will hinder outside food trucks from wanting to set up in Baldwin City. I would like to consider 4 separate issues. The first issue is in regards to the license fee. The new ordinance that was proposed states that our license fee will be $25 per day with a maximum of $500 per year. Our neighboring towns have significantly lower yearly fees. Lawrence, which has a much higher population, only has a $300 yearly fee. Ottawa is $150 for the yearly fee. Burlington is only $100 per year. I'd like you to consider lowering the cost of the fee to under $20 per visit, or under $150 per year. This will allow our city to collect the license fee with our local vendors and any outside vendors coming into our neighboring towns. I think it's important to support our 3 local food trucks, 2 of them are here today, to set them up for success. These are families that live in Baldwin City, have kids that attend our schools, donate to our local events, and they do so much more. The second issue I'd like you to consider is the total number of hours a mobile truck is allowed to sell. I have personal experience in the last 5 years watching food trucks set up and break down. It takes 30 minutes at least, maybe even an hour, to set up and break down. This does not leave much time to sell their food, potentially having food trucks leave unhappy and not return to our town. With that said, our neighboring towns again of Lawrence, Gardner, and Ottawa all have an 8-hour per day limit. I'd like you to consider changing the time from 3 hours to 8 hours per day. The next 2 points I'd like to discuss are not included in the current ordinance that you submitted, but I believe should be added. I think both of these were already addressed too. The first exemption would be vendors selling at farmers markets, to include the Baldwin City Chamber Third Fridays market events. Those happen on the 3rd Fridays, June, July, August, and September. I wasn't sure if that was a city sanctioned event or not. Lawrence has this exemption for farmers market, and I believe it would benefit our community to include this. The next would be what Jessica talked about, which is a city-approved sketch plan establishing a location for mobile food vendors for a permanent, seasonal, or special event site, as long as the owner can meet a few following conditions: the address and location on the site and the property lines, the use of a number of parking spaces that are blocked off, no more than 20% of the parking. The plan must indicate, which I think you touched on, no impacts to pedestrians, bicycles, motor vehicles, traffic, or cause any safety issues, and a plan for litter control. By adding this to the ordinance, this will allow businesses such as the Bullpen to offer a location for food truck vendors that is city approved. So to conclude, in my 6 years of experience bringing food trucks to our town, I can tell you that offering mobile food vendors brings in outside dollars and returning customers. I've had many outside customers come here specifically for the food truck, but state that they love our little town and will be back, therefore bringing returning customers to enjoy other food establishments in town. Shops such as Twill Trade, the Ice Cream Shop, Baldwin City Made, the Bullpen, and many others benefit from outside customers and downtown traffic. I have never received a single complaint in the last 5 years from our community or any out-of-towners when attending our food truck events. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I have over 300 positive comments on social media. This is between the Nook and the Bullpen. I've been doing it at both locations. When we host our mobile food trucks, such as our Food Fun Fridays. It would be a shame to have such strict regulations that would deter mobile vendors from wanting to come to Baldwin City or our current vendors from staying here.
For someone who doesn't speak in public, you do quite well.
Can I sit down?
Thanks, Nikki.
So my name's Alyssa. I live at 909 Deer Ridge. My truck and trailer reside at 462 East 1500. So similar to Nikki, I have not done this since high school. I'm a little shaky, but I also have things written down, ADHD brain. So my name's Alyssa, and I own and operate the Pretzely truck, which is a soft pretzel food truck. If anyone's had the pleasure of trying them, they're very good. Which I'm a food truck business that has proudly served this community for about 2 years now and surrounding areas, and we're looking at expanding next year into a second truck even. So I stand before you today to address my concerns regarding the proposed mobile vending fees and rules, and while I understand the need for regulation, I do believe that the proposed and outlined measures will have a detrimental consequence for our town. First, I'd like to address the proposed fee, similar to how they've said, given I'm third, kind of repeats itself. $25 a day or a $500 annual business license fee is significantly higher than what many larger neighboring cities have. I'm licensed across most of the Kansas City metro and almost every suburb of Kansas City, and $500 would not even be a number I would ever pay, frankly. The highest I have paid to any city, including Shawnee, is $300. Such a high fee will definitely deter a variety of food trucks from coming to our town. Additionally, as mentioned before, a $25 a day fee is really hard to keep track of. Like, have I paid that fee already? Am I going to keep coming back, having to figure out, has that one been handled? Has the city approved that date, XYZ? So the annual business license is in fact the direction to go if we are imposing that, just for the sake of ease. This lack of diversity in food options would not only impact local events and businesses, but it would also diminish the vibrancy and appeal of our community. So in a town with limited dining options, which we currently have like 2 pizza joints, a Taco Bell, a Sonic, we have 2 different American food offerings, a Subway, 3 Mexican restaurants, and like a handful of coffee shops. It is crucial that we offer a variety of cuisine offerings to keep our community satisfied and encourage spending within Baldwin. Food trucks provide an excellent way to bring diverse and unique food options without the high costs and risks associated with brick and mortar establishments, which often struggle in small towns like ours. If we want to maintain and enhance our local culinary scene, welcoming food trucks is a practical and necessary solution. Moreover, the stringent parking standards further complicate the situation. The restrictions as proposed would essentially mean, given that it absolutely states no obstructions of sidewalks, no obstruction of flow of any parking lot, no hindrance of the street. As it stands, as it reads currently, it reads as if you would only be able to park on private property in a grassy zone, because you can never guarantee that a long line wouldn't obstruct a parking lot in some fashion or a sidewalk. It's a little impractical and it's overly restrictive. Such regulations will make it difficult for food trucks to find viable spots to operate, which would lead to a significant reduction in their presence and availability. Additionally, the proposed 3-hour time limit for food truck operations is counterproductive. Our neighboring city, Lawrence, which is significantly larger, did away with their low time restrictions and increased it to 8 hours because they found it was not conducive to creating a food truck friendly environment. Implementing a similar time limit here will discourage food trucks from setting up, knowing that they'll have such a short window to serve customers. It is important that we learn from the experiences of other cities and avoid policies that have been proven to be ineffective. It is important to recognize that food trucks are more than just mobile vendors. They bring unique culinary experiences, contribute to the local economy, and often serve as gathering points for the community. By imposing such high fees, restrictive parking standards, and practical time limits, we risk losing these benefits. Many food trucks, including mine, operate on very thin margins. Adding this additional burden, coupled with restrictive operational standards, would make me reconsider even operating in the town. Lastly, I must question the fairness of this proposal. Every weekend, vendors at the weekend market utilize small pop-up tents to sell things like baked goods, specifically like sourdough bread is a great example here. The only difference between my operation and the operation of the sourdough bread is that they are using a tent, about a 10 by 10 tent, 100 square feet of that sidewalk. I would be using about 200 square feet of a parking spot. We're both selling bread. That's all we sell is bread. And so they're blocking those walkways, but those walkways which I would be blocking would be against the code. This discrepancy highlights the inequity and impracticality of the proposed regulations. In conclusion, I urge you to rethink these proposed fees and regulations, which were seemingly developed for a much larger and much more affluent community. Let's not stifle the vibrant food truck scene that adds flavor and diversity to our town just because a few people can't handle a little competition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none. So I'm gonna propose something different to the council tonight. I'm gonna see if we can have Dakota, because it's a special night for him, present the next thing, and then take public comment, and then come back for council discussion on those two items. Would that work for the
Yeah.
council? So we can get him out of here quickly?
Sure.
Okay. Dakota, do you want to explain the next ordinance real quick?
Absolutely. So the second ordinance on your agenda for the evening is the common consumption area. The outline, or the ordinance outlines, in layman's terms, areas in which you could purchase and possess certain alcoholic beverages legally within the city of, limits of Baldwin City, but not be inside a brick and mortar establishment. So the short of it would be that and I think the area we're talking about is between 5th Street and 9th Street along High, and then 8th Street, 1 block north and 1 block south of High Street, for the purpose of the common consumption area. Again, this is similar to the mobile food unit discussion because of the requirement through the state of Kansas to obtain certain licenses before you do anything else in the common consumption area. But any business operating within that common consumption area would then be allowed to sell alcoholic beverages, cereal malt beverages, beer, those types of beverages. The common consumption area requires a license that's issued by the Kansas Liquor Control Act. That means that it goes to the state of Kansas. So we would not be issuing it. We have to, as the city, apply to the state for that license. And people within that common consumption area would then be applying for their own license to operate within the CCA. So the time period on that, as set up in statute, or set up in this ordinance, would be from 8 a.m. until 11:59 p.m., so 8 to midnight. That would mean that you could, and that's each and every day. You cannot remove, while you can purchase things within that area and walk around the CCA, the common consumption area, you cannot remove any beverages you purchase in that area from the CCA. So that would require the city to police and deter folks from walking out of the common consumption area with any beverages that they purchased inside the CCA. Each establishment, and this is by state statute, so being in compliance with state statute, each establishment that is part of the CCA and intends to offer beverages through the CCA must sell those beverages in cups that are clearly labeled with a logo and name, some sort of indication as to what vendor or what store that came from. They cannot be glass. You can't have any glass beverage containers in the common consumption area if you're pouring drinks into glasses. So that each individual store would be required to create their own cups. Would require them to be in compliance with the state statute regarding those markings. There is language here, and I think one of the concerns we have is about folks who may be acting inappropriately within the CCA. So there's not a exclusive list of things that would not be allowed, but the city would be allowed to remove folks from the CCA based upon their behavior, if there's fighting, harassment, destruction of property, any violations of city or state law, those things would be, allow us to remove someone from the CCA. The way in which I think the CCA is a year-round operation. It's not a special event permit, so it does not pop up on one day and go away. It'd just be a permanent designated area. So it's not as if you'd have to have repeated, like the third Friday, it wouldn't be, if the third Fridays are inside that area, you could certainly have people selling beverages during that time period, but it's not limited to certain dates or times other than the 8 a.m. to midnight time frame for sales and for possession of alcoholic beverages there. So that being said, there's also then the ability to block off streets from motorized traffic, so you will not have people wandering in the middle of the street with traffic driving through as well. So this would include the streets and right-of-ways, and so when I say it may be blocked off, it's not a shall be, it's permissive. So you can block off, so if you had an event down there, you can block off that area should you choose to. So that is the way this reads right now. Obviously, this is something that's been coming up more and more. This is a recent change to Kansas state law. Topeka adopted a couple of different common consumption areas here at the end of 2023. There's been discussion about doing certain similar things in downtown Lawrence. They have not adopted any CCAs as of this point. But in Topeka, the CCAs that were adopted were in downtown Topeka and then in North Topeka in their art district. And so I think the goal of Topeka, based upon the legislation that was written there, was to increase events, increase foot traffic, increase the number of folks coming to dinner and staying down in their either the art district or in the downtown area. As I think a lot of folks know, if they work in Topeka, that downtown closes off around 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. because of the influx of folks in for the working day. So Topeka's been trying to keep more people downtown with development and now the CCAs that are allowed under state law. But I think you have it, I can't see, and assume you have a map up there on the screen of where the CCA would be, or no? Okay. But I think everyone here knows the area from 5th to 9th. The only other issue to address would be that it would cross over if it crosses over 6th, that is it's not a city street, but it's a highway, so it would not just be city property, but there's nothing that's actually saying that we can't have the CCA go across that lane as well. So I know that was a question that had been raised previously. I just want to address that if any of the council had a question regarding the location of the common consumption area.
Any questions for Dakota?
Jerry.
What happens if I put a cooler in the back of the truck coming down?
So you are not, you have to, the beverages have to be purchased within, you can't bring beverages into the area yourself, and you can't take anything out you purchase there. So you would be in violation of city ordinance if you were, had your own open container in the CCA. Unless you are a vendor yourself and have the permit that was needed, but I don't think that your truck and your cooler is gonna be covered by that.
So these ladies that just got through speaking, are they allowed to sell, if they're licensed, are they allowed to sell?
So if you want,
They wouldn't hold a liquor license, and they would have to be adopted into the CCA area.
so the entities that are allowed to sell within the CCA based upon the way this is written have to be located, the brick and mortar buildings inside the CCA. So if you wouldn't be allowed to come in, set up shop there. Now, special permits, city events, that could change that if you have your own liquor license, but that's a vendor by vendor question there. But for the CCA, it's for fixed businesses that are within the CCA.
Okay, I understand that the city of Lawrence has not adopted this because there wasn't enough businesses contacted by state law that says a certain amount of businesses have to be contacted for this, is that right?
You say a certain amount of businesses have to be contacted by
For a
this?
certain amount of businesses in this area that you're talking about. Don't they have to enter a state law that says these businesses have to be contacted if this is gonna take place?
Go ahead, Aaron, you know this answer.
Only to be included in it. So we have to make contact with the businesses to see if they want to be included in that,
Included, meaning,
in the common consumption area. But they would have to also provide the cups that are, that
so
have
you're
their
saying, to be included, you're referring that they will be able to sell booze, is that what, or beer, or whatever it may be. That's what you're saying.
Mhm. But they have to have their own license for that as well.
That's state law, right?
That is the state law, and their license goes to the state, not through us. So they can apply for that from the state, if they want to operate within the CCA.
Now, to do this, as you discussed, do all these people have to have state licenses to do that?
To be.
Yes, they do. They have
Yes.
to have a state license to have a liquor license anyway.
Yes.
Never mind.
Any other questions for Dakota? All right. Dakota, you can head out if you want.
All right, if you guys do need anything, I'm available by
I'm
phone
sure
if
you're
you
wanting to
have
head.
questions. There's no comment on this that necessarily needs to, I'm happy to stick around if there's comment that needs to be addressed by this.
Does anybody want to speak to public comment that has a question for the city attorney before he leaves?
So I'm here for.
Sorry, I was not prepared for that one. I just have a question. Do I have to do the thing again? Nikki
No.
Manbeck, 1097 North 400 Road. I looked into this a few years ago because I thought it was a good idea during Maple Leaf. I made a mistake one year, misunderstood the rule. It's my understanding that all the bars or businesses that sell alcohol, if one of us sells to a minor, we all get fined. So that would be me, Corey, El Patron. So if, let's say El Patron serves to a minor and gets, and we're all included in this, we all get fined together. That's what stopped me from this earlier,
From wanting to have that be participation in that because.
a few
if you-
years, 4 or
So-
5 years ago.
I will tell you right now, I do not have an answer for that regarding how their regs are written regarding like ABC and sales to minors. Because you know well what the, or if you do it,
Right,
but I can understand, I do not know if A, there's any liability for other businesses in the CCA if someone else vends to a minor. But
That's just how I
I can
understood it.
certainly look into that and get an answer for you and the council, because I do think it would be, I think there's a liability issue there and a hindrance, given how much those fines can be from the state.
yes.
If you have to rely upon the compliance of
Someone else.
others.
Correct.
And like I said, I don't wanna give you an answer when I don't have an answer to it. It sounds like that's a question that you need to be answered before you could ever participate in one of those.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm happy to look into that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
I think we all know this is gonna happen, that somebody's gonna buy it and take it out and give it to a minor. We all know that's gonna happen.
Oh, no, that's not how they're gonna do it. They're gonna get a cup and go to their car and pour beers from
Yeah,
their
it's
car.
gonna happen, it's gonna happen,
That's how they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
but I don't know that the person who was selling the liquor to start with would be violated, it would be the adult or whoever that gave them that.
From a liability perspective, it would be something that you'd have to, like, you have to be able to figure out who vended it to that person, and if it was to the person holding the cup, or it was to a third party. I mean, you could walk into any liquor store in Baldwin area now and purchase beer from, or wine, and then hand it to somebody else. The issue here is that you've got cups that are marked, so it appears as if if someone's holding that cup, it came from that vendor, so there's a direct connection to them. And then, but from an evidentiary standpoint, you'd have to be able to show someone actually sold that to them.
So there'll be no cans or bottles or nothing. It'll all be cups, is that what you're saying?
The way in which it's written right now, that is, the vending of it, as through logoed cups. And so I can tell you, oftentimes, like for special events, that's not the same. Special events, you'd have cans, bottles, normally cans. I don't think any other place allows bottles due to the liability with the glass. But my reading of the law is that it has to be served in a container that displays the license's name, logo, or other identifying marks. So it would have to be, if you've got a beer, you'd have to be poured into a cup. If you've got a mixed drink, it'd have to be poured into a cup. It wouldn't be in a can or in a bottle.
Beer. Beer be in a cup.
Beer in a cup. You've done it before.
Huh?
You've done that before.
Not since I was 16.
Get you a pack of silos or so.
All right, thank you, Dakota.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to this, we'll go back to council discussion on the food truck ordinance, and we'll open up public comment on this. So is there any council discussion on the food truck ordinance? As I said, I didn't intend for this to be a voting thing. This was more intended to bring it to the council because this is the first time the council's ever seen it, so.
Means I can get accused of doing all the talking, I don't know how to start, because I'm gonna start talking pretty
Go
soon
ahead.
anyway. I don't see any problem, I'm kinda on the vendor's side, that they need to come in. But to charge a fee, I've got some lists of some stuff here from different places, and some of it's as low as $150 a year, and some of it's $25 a year. Abra, for example, charges $150 per year. I would think maybe that if we have vendors that come in like from Maple Leaf, that are not local vendors, that they would pay a fee on a daily basis, which may be a little more at the end than what would be $200, let's say.
Well, special events would be excluded. Maple Leaf's a special event.
How about football games and stuff like that? How you gonna classify that?
Football, I mean, unless somebody actually declares and goes to the city hall and we designate a special event.
Can I just say something?
No, sorry, we've had
Sorry.
public comment.
Worth an answer.
Go ahead.
That's, I mean, this, I think the special events aren't, they're excluded in the ordinance as it stands. This is, and the ordinance as it stands is a perfectly malleable, change it however you want as the council thing. I think Dakota just kind of took a generalized one that he found and start as a starting point. I don't think that the special events, you know, so like a football game, if like a vendor pull up somewhere in town next to a
Well,
football
we know
game.
that they have their own concession.
They do, yeah,
We know that.
right, right.
But if there was a vendor that wanted to come in and work it that way, is that going to be classified as a special event?
No, a special event is recognized by the city as a special event.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got it listed as $500. I see it on the sheet there, $500 a year. I think that's a little high.
Okay.
You know,
And that's why we're having,
the people are trying to make a living. They're actually doing a favor, I think, to the city to come in and service that way. $200 or $250 a year, one-time pay. I don't think it's too far out of line. Also, my next question will be, how do we collect sales tax on this?
And that's up to the vendor.
They
Yes, I've
report
done-
their, I mean, I don't know about cards. Credit cards, I think, would be pretty tough to not report sales tax in Baldwin, but cash, I mean, I don't know if there's anything saying that you have to report them in Baldwin other than when you file your thing, but I don't know. Baldwin has pretty high sales tax. I don't know if I've never ran a food truck before. I don't know if when they file their taxes that's broken up down and separated. What town did you sell in? And maybe somebody can shed some light on this later, but I don't know. The sales tax question's been a question that I've asked too. I don't know how sales tax is collected.
Is that something that we need to take into consideration? If we don't collect sales tax, do we charge a higher fee for them to come in?
Well,
They're supposed to collect sales, they were supposed to collect sales tax on them. We're being,
but that's a self-reporting.
Self-reporting.
I know they're supposed to collect sales, I know they're supposed to do that. But, she's mentioned, and you mentioned, credit cards. And credit cards is something that we may not be able to collect on.
no, credit cards I think are easier to collect on.
Mhm.
And that's why I would have to know more about how food trucks report their taxes at the end of the month, is because, you have your cash at the end of the month, right? And you have to declare where each of those cash sales were made and what town that you were in. It's a moving deal, so that's why it's a little bit confusing. Credit cards are, you can go find what town your credit card was ran in, and those are pretty easy to look up and report. The cash, I'm not sure. I'm guessing you'd have to report it at the end of every day and then go back and backfile in each of those cities, which you'd have to do. Because there's different tax rates for every town.
There's got to be a way that we can work this out somehow, according to these people to be allowed to come into town.
They are allowed to come to town.
Well, I understand, but.
That was the concern that was raised, is that there were no, we don't know who they are, because there's
Right, there
no
was-
city.
There was just nothing, there was
So-
nothing
so we're not-
outlined
so we're not
for
running-
food
Not
vendors.
keeping them from
No.
coming
So
into
this
town.
is a starting
No.
point.
No.
And this isn't the first time it was brought up, because as it stands, the city has no ordinance, no
I
anything
got that.
pertaining to
I
food
know
trucks.
that, I know that.
So they don't have to check in
But
the
I
city
don't
hall,
wanna
say,
charge,
hey,
I
this is
don't
who I
wanna charge them
am.
so much money that it discourages them from coming.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
That's where I'm going, that's where I'm
No,
going.
we're all on the same page there.
You know.
The problem is that there was literally nothing on the books, ordinance-wise, as far as,
But
and
the local guys that come in, that's fine, I want them here.
absolutely.
But I don't wanna charge them so much that they don't wanna come. Like she said, $500, and she would pay $500,
We are on the same page.
We do not
We are on
want
the
to be
same page.
prohibitive, for sure.
you know? Ottawa charges $150. Paola, I think, charges $200 or something like that, and Newton charges something else, and so on down it goes.
No. Please, no comments from the public, otherwise we'll ask you to leave.
Well, I think the price is too high too, $500. I think for the size town that we have, I think that'd be too high.
Well, so you have to remember too, I think the way the ordinance reads, that's assuming that, I think it was
For a
25,
year.
25, no, it was $25 a day, up to $500.
Right.
Right,
Which is-
right. So if
You're
you're only
not
paying, well, but if it's $200 a one-time fee, and you get to come as many times as you want within a year, but you only come twice, $25 a day is a better deal.
Well, I guess that's up to the vendor.
Well, no, it's up to us, we have to decide what the ordinance reads.
Well,
And some cities have it $25 for 30 days. Well, I don't wanna go there.
I don't,
But I like the $200 myself. And for the local girls, they can come in and pay their $200 and come as much as they want. But if we have an outside vendor come in, let's say from Topeka, and he's gonna come in for one day, other than those designated days of entertainment or whatever you wanna
Correct.
call them, other than those days, he paid $25.
I also have a concern about the 3-hour limit.
Yeah,
Um,
I can just read it.
That's, doesn't seem like that's a very good amount of time for a vendor to sell their products. And the other thing is, if it's a 3-hour limit, who's gonna check on that? Who's gonna come and say, your time's up, you need to get out?
yeah, nobody.
So
Yeah.
I think 3 hours.
I mean, we
At least I
can-
don't think so.
Yeah, we don't have a police.
Right, we can,
But I think 3 hours is not
I
very
think,
long.
yeah, I think, as I understand it, there's kind of some generic language in there, and I think that probably spooked some people, but I think it's pretty generic, and I think it was just wanted to talk in front of the entire council.
8, 9?
I mean,
It's up to the council.
It's whatever we
I
decide.
mean, really,
Well,
tonight,
we're discussing it.
yeah,
That's what we're doing.
yeah,
so,
What would you say, Jules? 8 hours, 9 hours?
I don't know, I just think 3 hours is not enough.
No, it's not, you're right. It's not.
So, and this is an ordinance, so it's gonna have another reading, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
this isn't even the first one, as I understand.
How about-
Well, it's an ordinance, I mean, it's the first reading of the ordinance for discussion purposes, but the council can pass it anytime, I mean,
How about 8 hours?
Tonight.
I thought this was just an open discussion, I didn't know. So we don't have to vote, we're not voting on anything, obviously.
No.
How about 8 hours if they have to be gone by 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Corey?
10 o'clock?
10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock?
Maybe they wanna go later than 10, I don't know. I have no frame of reference, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know that
I know if you have a
Vegas-
concert and, you know, someone has a food truck outside of the concert goes till 11, that might be kind of a bummer.
Right.
Yeah, but that'll be a special event. That could be a special event.
Unless it's inside.
If they have something at Sullivan Park,
That would be a special event.
that's a special event.
But
They'd have to be part of that special, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but it would be a special event if they come in, it is a special event. They sign up for it.
Yep.
You know, but if you go down to the auditorium at Baker and they have a musical show down there, that's a different story.
I think you're thinking,
That was
I wasn't speaking more toward like an outdoor event. I'm speaking more toward like, let's say a business wanted to have an indoor concert and also have a food truck present outside for that concert. I mean, they might want to go later. I don't know, I think maybe 10 o'clock's appropriate, I don't know.
Julie?
There's not time set in here, is there? I mean, can we just set a certain number of hours instead of setting certain times?
Or why can't you do from like 8 until midnight, just like the CCA is set up?
Guys, you can do whatever you want. You're the council.
I'm just saying, you know, they come in and pay their $25.
You're saying 8 in the evening till midnight, is that what you're saying?
I think 8 in the morning till midnight.
8 in the morning till midnight?
Yeah,
Just basically a 1 day permit,
right,
to operate anytime within that day.
right.
That's what I was
Right,
getting ready to say,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't want to buy lunch there. Do we have to reach an agreement on this?
No.
No. Just
Well, we probably should have some direction.
need
Yeah.
some direction for Dakota. That's it. That's all I need tonight. Just direction.
How about $200 a year, $25 for, if they just run it up
$25 a
one
day,
time?
up to $200 a year.
Yeah,
Sounds good to me.
so if they come in and do
Sounds
it
like a
4
start.
times,
Yeah.
that's 100. They do it 8 times, that's 200.
And then, just a 1 day, 8 to midnight, or just, do we just wanna leave it at?
What's the general language say right now?
I don't know if it lists times.
I don't think it lists times.
And I don't know if that's,
There wasn't any.
I don't know if that's necessary.
Yeah, I don't
There
feel
wasn't
like
any
that's
time on it.
necessary.
I feel like we
It just
just,
says 3 hours, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's where, yeah.
So maybe we just increase that to 8 hours.
I do remember Dakota saying 3 AM to 6
From
AM
when
as
to
an
when?
example.
I don't think we need to define that.
Yeah, but I mean, because you, oh, I see what you're saying, just 8 hours.
Just
So
8
if they
Right.
came at noon, they'd have to be gone by 8.
Right.
Okay, I see.
Noon to what? Noon to 8?
No,
Just 8 hours.
just 8 hours.
8 hours period.
Not a defined time period.
Good?
If they agree.
Start.
Any way it goes, I'm for it.
Okay, I'll give those to Dakota.
I want to see it.
So I guess for my,
There's some.
to go a little further with that, so they go to the city hall, they pay their fee. It doesn't really, it doesn't really address the concern. So how do we know who's coming in? How do we know that they have their state license? How does the city of Baldwin know?
They're required to give those documents to the city.
Okay,
clerk. She
okay.
verifies.
Okay.
So would we do the same process as licensing for the 4th of July tents, and it would come before the council?
Correct.
I mean, would it, we do the comment, or we do the
No.
CMB licenses every year through
I
the
don't think
council?
we'd have each one of those come through the council.
If you did a year one?
If they get a year when they should have a certificate.
No, I think if,
So do it more
They
like a
have all the-
peddlers and just,
correct document, just like a peddler
Okay.
license, those don't come in front of the council.
yep, right.
I mean, do anybody disagree?
What I'm getting at is, before there was any ordinance or talk of an ordinance, I mean, as I understood it, anybody could have just come in and set up a food truck, and there was no city regulation whatsoever. So it could have been just some guy in a horse trailer frying corn dogs with no food license. I mean, that was the concern that was raised.
Yeah.
And so this fee, whatever, that, you know, that is the primary concern, that this would now allow a point of contact between the city and the vendor, make sure they're licensed, et cetera.
Mhm.
Okay. That's,
But
Now then,
do we want it like a peddler's license, I guess, is that?
you have to explain a peddler's license a little bit.
Well, they come in, the city verifies all their information, verifies, I don't.
Book sales.
So we get all the information, we send, first thing we do is send it off to the police department for a background check. So we'd have to have the names of all of those that would be selling, and then, and the driver's license. And then, as soon as that comes back good, then we process it and set it up for the days. But if we were just gonna do it for the year, then I guess the license would just be for the year, and then you'd have to renew it when that was up.
Do all businesses in Baldwin have a background check run on them?
Only, only for liquor sales, or cereal malt, or, but peddlers, yes.
how about, health?
That's from the state, the health
Do
inspection.
they have to have health?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
health-
Once we have
They
documents,
a health
they're,
certificate with them.
Yeah. Right.
They already have to do
that'd be
that.
part of the certification that they send, they give a copy to Amber for the city.
Is there any other inspection that's gonna fall in our guidelines that they're gonna have to follow if we do this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Electrical hookups or propane
I
tanks?
think most
a lot of them have generators.
No, I don't think that's typical to inspect a truck, but to have our code inspector.
No, I'm asking, I don't know.
So are you
Once we
asking,
have a
like-
document showing that they're approved by the state, I'm assuming inspects their stuff. So as long as the state's good, I would assume that we as the city are good. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right, no, and so I was understanding, you were saying like for the electrical hookup, they would have to come and fill out a utility card for electric hookup.
Okay, how about,
Yeah, because we charge them for the electricity.
a lot of them have their own generators, I know. But
Right, most of them do, yeah.
propane gas or that kind of stuff?
That's all, their trailer's inspected by the state. We wouldn't deal with any of that.
So you don't think we have any rules and regulations in our inspection systems that would keep them from coming in?
No.
Good.
I think as long as you're a legit food truck that the state has approved and licensed and signed off on, is the whole point here, because up until now, up until this thing passes, there is nothing saying anybody can just come in, no food license, no sanitation, no nothing. So assuming that they're licensed and that they have documents from the state showing that they're licensed, that should suffice for the city.
Honestly, I have asked for licenses from the state just because I'm, for those that call, but really there's no requirement for that.
Any other council discussion?
What did you get written down?
I have $25 a day, $200 per year, max, and 8-hour permit.
That's fine with me. Whatever the rest of them say.
All right, next we will accept public comment for the common consumption ordinance that we discussed. Anybody here like to speak to that agenda item? Seeing none, council discussion?
Well, I have some notes. I think to have a CCA from 8 in the morning until midnight, 7 days a week is kind of crazy. I
Okay.
mean, why do we need alcohol roaming the streets at 8 in the morning? Doesn't make sense to me.
I'm against it on Sunday.
Well, I just don't think it needs to be 8 till midnight, 7 days a week.
And like I said, same with the other ordinance, this is a starting point and
Right.
kind of blanket thing. to discuss.
What hours would you recommend?
I don't know, I think a CCA is great for a special event. I just don't think it's required to have it every day of the week.
We already have one rule where they can buy liquor at 10 o'clock in the morning.
You know. But.
We follow
but-
state law.
I'm sorry?
We follow state law.
We don't have to.
But they're not
We do.
wandering around on the street either.
Yeah, some of them are riding bicycles.
I'll say this, if anyone's drunk at 8 AM, ain't no law gonna stop them from being drunk at 8 AM.
That's true.
No, but they,
Yeah.
the thing is that they're buying a drink from your establishment with your logo on it, and they're wandering around drunk at 8 AM, then I think there's a problem.
What,
I don't think there's any establishment that sells that's open before.
do we have a law that says what time they can open? Liquor stores can open or bars can open?
It matched state law, whatever that is.
Yeah,
11, I think.
Huh?
I think it's 11.
11 o'clock?
6.
Yeah, we matched state law last time.
Yes, I think state law allows 6 AM.
Huh?
Wow.
Yeah, 6 AM.
But we can tailor that
You-
to our city.
You're saying,
Yeah, and you can tailor the
Then they open at
CCA
11?
That's the earliest I know.
to different
our
times.
drinking days has
Then
changed.
whatever
We get it
liquor
down at
store.
6 o'clock.
I'm not a drinker.
I don't know, I don't drink at 6 AM, so. I think we did it for the, if I remember correctly, that was discussed. And it
What
was
did
brought
we
up
discuss?
of the soccer in Europe. That they do play soccer games early, so if somebody opens up a breakfast thing and they want to have mimosas at 8, 9, 10, then they're able to sell mimosas legally at 8, 9, 10.
It's something you see in the crossroads in Kansas
You're
City.
talking about Europe, you can buy liquor over there at 2 o'clock. in the
No,
No, it's
I'm
Americans watching European.
I'm talking Americans watching Europe soccer, or football over there, soccer here. That was the discussion we had when we changed and lined up with the state law.
Well, I think we were thinking of extreme
Well, we
scenarios where you
already
would
set
have
a
it.
precedent at 10 o'clock in the morning, so. To buy liquor,
That was the old law before 6 AM in the morning.
so if you're gonna sell liquor at 10 o'clock in the morning, you might as well keep it that way so you can't get a drink of whiskey from 10 o'clock in the morning at a bar.
I don't know what you're getting at there.
Huh?
I don't know what you're getting at.
You go to the liquor store and buy a bottle of whiskey at 10 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
so if you're gonna sell liquor there at 10 o'clock in the morning, why would you not sell a drink of whiskey at 10 o'clock in the morning at the bar?
But I'm saying that you can legally. It's not outlawed in Kansas or in Baldwin City. You can have a whiskey at 10 AM if that's what you choose to do for breakfast.
Well, I think it's different to have a drink in the morning, like at a bar. But if you're walking around on the street,
And again, we can tailor this however.
okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it's-
it does not have to line up with what this ordinance says or what current ordinance allows for bars. You
Okay.
can say your CCA is 5 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight each night. You can
Mhm.
dictate those
Okay.
hours.
That actually makes more sense.
So is there a need for a permit for the people that are included in the CCA?
They have to sign up for when we put in our application, so the state knows which establishments downtown have been approved by the city to
Okay,
be.
but there's no cost.
No, not that I'm aware of.
I think there's $100 application fee for, like, if the city was to put in.
To the state, no cost to the business to opt in.
Is that for each
No, just.
vendor
for
or
the
for the whole city?
For the city to apply.
go, it's not ever gonna have an effect on me, because I don't drink anyway. So I'm not gonna be walking around downtown at 6 o'clock in the morning. Or
Well, you
at-
just won't be
Or at midnight. I may not be.
You are
able to-
walking
might be
around
walking around.
downtown at 6
By
o'clock
the
in the
time you
think I've
get
seen
this,
it, so.
by the time you get this done, I may not be able to walk anyway, so.
Well, then you'd be rolling.
Be what?
Rolling?
Yeah. And I sold my scooter, so can't even go to town.
Okay, so change times. What does the council feel like on that?
I know, like, when I volunteered to be at the city table for Third Friday, even that early, as it was getting closer to closing, I saw people walking down the street with beer. And obviously, they're not doing it legally, so I know that there's gonna be instances that late morning, it might be acceptable. So maybe 11?
Until
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 midnight,
when?
11 to midnight,
11 to midnight.
11 to when, Sue? 11 to midnight?
I threw out a suggestion for a start time, until
I like it.
midnight's fine with me.
I like it, 11 to midnight.
Any other comments on this council discussion?
How you gonna handle this for it?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know what it opens us up to. I
I
don't
think
know.
it opens up to more trash on the city streets.
I don't know.
Because what are they gonna do with the cups?
Yeah. I don't know, it's the unknowns that just kind of have me wheels spinning in my head, like, I don't know.
It's just gonna be one of those things where we're gonna have to put up more trash cans?
I'm not worried about the trash. I think that's solvable. It's just the stuff that maybe the benefits that come with it is unknown. The consequences that come with it are unknown. I'm just thinking a lot, and I'm glad this is the first reading.
So what you got, 11 to midnight?
That's all I have on my notes. Okay, next agenda item. Ben, you're probably ready for hearing notice for 2025 budget?
I certainly am. Staff's asking the city council to approve August 20th as the public hearing date for your budget. The last time we talked was at the first budget workshop. One of the march orders that I was given was come back to you guys with adjusted budget. What I was able to do is comb through the budget. What I'm presenting to you guys is a 1.5 mil drop in taxes. This is a decrease in levy. The budget also includes patrol car replacement, new server and cabling of City Hall, new firewall, and then a number of other items that are also listed in the letter that's projected up there, is suggested that we write, which is a great addition. But what that does is just kind of go through what's actually included in this budget. Now, the mills that were decreased, 1 mil comes out of the general fund and 0.5 mil comes out of the cemetery fund. Now, what that does to the cemetery fund is actually right sizes it to where the revenues match the expenses. Got a little bit more revenue than expenses over the last number of years. It was adding anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000. And I talked to Rob, there was really no reason to keep that going. Right after this, I'm gonna ask you to publish a 2024 amendment as well, but what he's gonna do is use the cemetery funds, since he uses equipment out of there, he's gonna use the cemetery funds reserve to purchase the backhoe and the skid steer, because he would use it out there, and that money is available, so he can actually put it to use for the city. So that seems to work. So that's what I have for you guys. August 20th would be the date that we would set for a public hearing and adopt the budget. We have to publish that on the city's website by Friday, by Saturday, but Friday.
You said August 20th at 7?
Yeah, 7
Right
PM
before
right
this?
here.
Okay. Council, you have any questions for Ben? This is just setting the hearing, and then we'll discuss the budget after the hearing, or the council. I imagine there's probably not anybody else in the public who wants to speak to when our public hearing is on our budget.
Healthcare, insurance go up that much?
Insurance goes up every year that much.
Did it?
It'll go up at least that much.
What do you classify as other revenue?
There's 50 different items that are small.
I don't want to go into it.
Yeah,
Forget
okay.
it.
With that, is there any council discussion on when our hearing is? Because we'll be going through all this stuff next meeting, correct, Ben?
Yeah, give a presentation on the 20th.
I'll entertain a motion for setting the hearing notice for the 2025 budget.
I move we set a hearing issue for the 2025 budget.
Second.
For August 20th at 7 p.m.
August 20th at 7 p.m.
in this room.
here at the library in this room.
That's your second.
Julie second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Ben, hearing notice for amending the 2024 budget.
So every year, obviously, we adopt a budget just like we're asking you to do on the 25 budget. As we proceed during the year, things come up that we have to modify the budget for. A few of these are positive items. And most of it is related to the issuance of the long-term bonds for the community center. There's a couple of different funds that need to be modified there. The library fund is a modification because of additional property taxes that have come in that we didn't predict. We undershot the revenue there, so we just need to increase the budget so we can appropriate those out to the library. Refuse is just as a result of the increase in fees. This is necessary to be able to make those payments. Electric is part of that one is due to the bond payments as well on the bond issues that we've done in '24. And then water is just a number of different small issues that needed to have a budget amendment for. All of this is coming from either additional cash reserves or the cash reserves themselves. So there's plenty of money. None of it is as a result of any kind of property tax increase. And the public hearing here would be set for the same night. This would actually go before the 2025 budget, so we put this on first.
Any council questions for Ben? Probably nobody else want to talk to this agenda item, I'm guessing. Council discussion.
You don't either.
Only person who want to talk is gone.
He'll be here next meeting.
It'll be, I'll take him Friday.
I'll entertain a motion to set the hearing notice for amending the 2024 budget for August 20th at 7 p.m. here at the library.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to set the hearing notice for amending the 2024 budget on August 20th at 7 p.m. here at the library. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, Ben, I'm gonna call you back up, buddy. Pool rehab funding. So in your packet, I believe there is a proposal to rehab the pool, our city pool. And Ben discussed prior, within the last 6-8 months, about rolling that into the lease that we're gonna do at the community center. Would that still be the plan?
That's still the plan. And we could do that at any time. Last year, we did a lease, I think the city manager put the lease out to the banks, and we had it done in a hurry. So we did that same thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, from what I remember when we discussed this in committee a while ago, that lease would be paid off upon receiving the tax credit funding from the state?
It depends on, correct, it'd be paid off either by the tax credits or the quality of life fund. That sales tax that goes just for that,
So either one, that, those
one
are
of the two, right. It wouldn't be general funds or property tax at all.
I didn't have anything in my packet,
You didn't?
I didn't either.
no. So this is all new
Okay.
to me.
Glenn, do you have that proposal for the pool rehab that you can send to Amber to put up on the screen? Real quick.
I'm not sure where it's at, I don't know if I can find it off the top of my head, but.
Matt, do you have copies?
Matt, you got
Okay,
it?
well, if you can pass that around at least,
Right.
'cause
There you go,
I know that.
there you go.
So the reason this is coming up now is the pool rehab company that has made the proposal is available in September of this year, so they're pushing us to want the plan to get this done. If you remember last year, we had authorized and were going forward with doing that until we found out that there were voids underneath the layers in the pool. And that company could not do that, that price
Right.
did not have that. So Matt reached out to another pool rehab company to see what they would cost to rehab our pool because of the complaints that we're getting from our pool. So that's what this is for.
Okay, so should this go through the Public Works Committee?
Well, if anything, you go through CDC because it's a public, deals with the quality of life sales tax. Same as the community
Okay,
center.
this is all new to me. So we may have to table this until our next meeting.
I mean, if that's what you wanna do, that's fine, it might delay the project to get
Well,
the pool rehab.
but I don't know anything about what's going on, so.
So Matt, can you step forward and explain, I guess, you know, you've been working directly with the company, to the council on what,
Yeah, so, and I can kind of, talk to Rob a little about this too, but we brought in, a company late last fall, and we had some hollow spots underneath the current pool, and the current Pebble Tech is, probably has reached its lifespan. So it's to the point now when we clean, the Pebble Tech is coming off the sides of the pool. And you may have heard some complaints at the council level in terms of when people walk on the bottom of the pool, it's very rough and sharp in certain areas. And so we brought that company in initially last fall. They would only fix so many hollow spots, and they wouldn't stand behind their warranty because the pool is, one, so old, and two, once you start tearing into those hollow spots, you never know what you're gonna find underneath. So they basically backed off, and we had to go out and try to find other companies that would bid it, come look at it, and give us their feedback. And so Ralph Jackson with, I don't remember the name of the company on the quote there, came out, looked at the pool, and also Clark Wag with Continental Pools came out and looked. And their recommendation was basically a complete overhaul of the inside of the pool, which will give us another basically 15 years. So basically anything water underneath is basically brand new, and will give us, like I said, another about 15 years to the life of the pool, which is already 30 years old. So the current Pebble Tech in the pool has exceeded its lifespan already. So versus, blowing the thing up and putting out bids for a brand new pool, which would be up in the millions of dollars, we're looking at basically rehabbing the current pool, putting in a whole new bottom, whole new edge, doing some tile along the race lanes and some tile along the edge. Basically, like I said, anything that the water sits in, the water touches will be brand new, to the cost of, I think it was a little over $300,000. I know it's expensive, but pools are an investment, right? And we've got a pretty strong swimming community here that I think would be in favor of that because it's an amenity not a lot of small communities have. And we're lucky to have it. And I would entertain any questions you may have. outside of that.
I presume this company's bonded.
Oh, yeah,
Have you talked to anybody that they work for?
absolutely. Clark Wag with Continental Pools down in Ottawa, he uses them in a lot of different projects. I can get some references if you like.
No. I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Have we gotten bids from any other companies?
It was hard to get bids because people turned it down, just because of the scope of the work. You know, we can certainly make an effort to get, you know, go back out and see what we can find. But again, it was tough to get that bid when we got.
So what we're doing is putting a Band-Aid on something old, is that it?
Not necessarily. Just like anything else with a car, like brakes, for instance, you know, you need to replace your brakes every now and then. They have a certain lifespan, as do tires. With the pool, basically what you've got is the basin has kind of reached its lifespan. You know, it's guaranteed for a certain number of years, and we've exceeded that to this point. And so now what we're starting to see is, you know, like I said, when we clean it, we're rubbing off the sides of the pool, right? So we kind of have to be careful when we're doing our typical cleaning. But what we really need to do is kind of just start over, because underneath you're getting hollow spots. There's probably more now than there was last year. So what we really need to do is, as opposed to going in and trying to patch those hollow spots, really need to go in and just take the whole thing out, refurbish the whole thing on the inside. Then, like I said, it gives us another 15 years, and you know, by then we're all gone, and someone else we have to make a decision on what to do
Wait a
with the
minute.
pool.
Is,
I'm not going anywhere.
Me included, sir. Me included.
does this also take care of the top of it?
It sure does.
The top
Yep,
of it?
it sure does. Because as you know, you may have heard some of that, the edge has been coming off on people's suits throughout the course of the summer, so the last few summers actually, so that would take care of that issue too.
So these guys are good.
Yeah, they are.
How long is it gonna take them to do this?
I don't know if it says in that quote, but I'm not real sure how long that would take them. Couple weeks maybe.
It'll be after the pool's closed for the season.
Yeah, we're shooting for September. That way we can get it done before the weather changes for the fall. Leaves start falling. Once the leaves start falling, then it becomes a little more challenging to do the painting. And based on the location of the pool, you know, we got nothing but trees around it, so.
I don't expect you to research this at all, and I'm not gonna ask for that. But I heard about a pool in Missouri where basically the same thing was going on, and they did it with stainless steel. You ever hear anything like that?
I have not heard anything like that. Interesting.
Any other questions for Matt? Thanks, Matt. Anybody else like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, council discussion?
Needs to be done.
I agree.
364,000, a lot of money.
It is. We're fortunate that we have a funding mechanism in place for it that's not gonna cause taxes to increase. A lot cheaper than,
We need the motion on to accept it, the bid to go on, is that what you want?
yeah.
I'm,
Kinda like to talk about it a little
I
bit.
don't like to get something at the meeting that I haven't seen and haven't been able to go over. And so I'm not prepared to vote on that.
Make a motion to table it to the next meeting.
It's your guys' prerogative. I don't know what that does to the timetable, so.
I'll ask before we motion anything, can we talk about it for a little bit? That way we're not closing the book on it and,
Go
May I have
for it,
some-
I withdraw my motion.
well, just, so, going back, how many years is it warranty for?
I'd have to defer to Matt. Matt's been working with
How
us.
long is it warranty for?
This is it's good for another
15
years.
How old's the pool?
30.
Yeah.
32.
So you're extending the pool's life by 50%.
For $307,000 investment
For
versus $8
this.
million.
Right.
For this particular thing, but, you know, there's still gonna be other things that come up, like the
Pumps and your.
pumps and, you know, all the other stuff.
But
that
this is
we-
this is the big ticket item. This is the one, this is the,
I know, but it's the little nickel and diming thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like
all
even a
along.
new pool, you're gonna have little nickel diamonds throughout the.
pumps and canopies and diving boards, those don't cause a community to say, okay, you guys ready to build another pool? Like,
Right.
it's this right here, it's this moment right here. And so I'm really just doing some math on
The
the one way or the other.
plumbing's the most expensive.
Yeah. How much would a new pool like this cost brand new? Matt? Pool guy?
Okay, so, I can speak to when we, the pool in Gardner, when, you know, there was the bathtub version and
Right.
the portion with the slides. When we opened that in 2007, the new side, with what you see there, was over $7 million.
I had like the lazy river and all
Yeah.
that, I think I've been to the pool, yeah.
But
Yeah,
that was in 2007.
2007.
yeah,
Wow.
oh yeah.
So do the math, inflation, everything else, so. I mean, something like we have, a simple bathtub would probably be pushing, like you said, $7-8 million just for a simple slide and you know, a little small zero depth entry, so. Pools are pricey, they really are. And to your point, you know, you can't, you know, filters, you kind of hold your breath every year, hoping that your filters kick on, and so we certainly go through that every spring. You know, you kind of hold your breath and hoping that they hold out. But again, you know, filters are right. You can go buy another filter. They're not going to shut you down for the summer or anything like that. But this is what you said. You know, the basin piece, you know, is really the expensive piece to it all.
Did you use over the amount of chlorine this year?
I'm sorry?
Did you use an over amount of chlorine?
Well, it varies year by year because so many things impact your chlorine usage, such as bather load, how many people come, the weather, you know, high temps impact it, rain impacts it. So there's a lot of things that impact chlorine use. And
Are you noticing an increase in use?
yeah, probably so. And there's also been an increase in price in chlorine too. So that would.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't state correctly. Are
Okay.
you noticing an increase in public use?
You know, I haven't looked at our total numbers for the year. I'll have those here pretty quick. But I wouldn't say it's higher or lower than any other year we've had. But again, I'd hate to give you an estimate right now. I just don't know.
The amount of people that attend the pool and use the pool, does that have a bearing on the amount of chlorine that you would take?
Absolutely does. Yep,
That's where I'm going with that question.
absolutely does. Yep, bather load has a big impact in chlorine usage.
So if you had an increase in population that used the pool, you're naturally gonna use more chlorine, you're gonna have a different pH or residual.
You can say that,
value.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Matt.
You bet.
I would like Rob to come up and speak about this.
Okay.
Do you mind, Rob?
Absolutely. I will say that, I think Matt did a good job on trying to get the quotes. This kinda got put on the back burner because we haven't talked about this since last fall, but I do know it's very difficult to get these pool guys out. And the 2 or 3 that we did have come out, 2 of them turned us down immediately when they saw it was Pebble Tech. They didn't wanna mess with it. We patched 10 or 12 holes last year. There's probably 10 or 12 more. Somebody mentioned we probably got new ones. The basin is bad. It's getting water up underneath Pebble Tech and it's pushing. A couple of them suggested that we leave it full year round. Maybe that would help. And so that's maybe something that we do. If we do get this new basin, we get it relined, sandblasted and relined, maybe that's something that we do is leave it full, leave it half full. It's something we'd have to check with our insurance company and see how they would treat that with not actually draining it, but maybe it would extend the life of the pool. You're right, the secondaries, I mean, it's all 30+ years old now. The filter, as Matt said, probably our weakest point. I've got the pumps replaced. The main vertical pump was rebuilt a couple summers ago, so it's probably in pretty good shape. The filter,
And we cleaned it, we put new sand in it. The last time we opened it up was at the beginning of the summer. It looked pretty good. Rob Lane came out and looked at it and he said for the age, he thought it looked pretty good. So I support this project. I know it's a lot of money, but I also know something needs to be done. And so I think this is our best, cheapest option to keep that pool up and running. And we're using about 50 pounds a day in chlorine, Jerry. You asked earlier what that pool uses, we use about a day, which is 50 pounds. And I thought that was a lot of chlorine until I talked to Eudora, and that's about what they use in their pool, about 50 pounds a day. So maybe it's not out of line as I thought it was.
How are you gonna get the water up underneath it?
Well, they'll strip it down to what was the original surface and start over.
With the water that's already drained underneath the bottom of the pool, how are you gonna get that out of there?
I
pool
don't
pool,
think that
huh?
will be, I don't think there will be anything below it once they strip it down to the original concrete.
It's trapped under the pebble tech, right?
It's
The
trapped
pebble
under
tech's coming out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pebble tech's
Yeah.
coming out,
Yeah.
The concrete's good, the pebble tech, the surface above the concrete.
right.
What's the liner they put down once they take out the pebble tech? They put pebble tech back down?
They put pebble tech back, I think.
It's
Going
in
back
the
to Pebble
quote,
Tech.
it's not called Pebble Tech, it's called something else.
But that pebble tech was put on 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been on at least 20 years. And
What,
so,
just curious, do you remember, you were around, and what that cost the city to put that down back then?
we found it, I don't remember 20 years ago what it cost, but I know it was expensive 20 years ago. And at that point in time, the pool was probably only 5-7 years old. So I don't know why they did it so quick, but obviously the council, somebody thought it was a good idea to put it on then, and they did, and probably did extend the life of it. I like the Pebble Tech, I think it's a good product.
It's called Pebble Sheen, is what they call it. I think it's
Okay.
just smoother version.
But, Public Works, my perspective on it is, I think it's money well spent. I don't think we're gonna get it any cheaper. I think if we can continue the patch and repair and paint that we've been doing, but I think in order to fix it right, we're gonna have to spend the money eventually, and it's only gonna get more expensive if we wait, so,
I don't have any problem with the cost of it, I'm just trying to gather information on the process.
right.
Any other questions for Rob?
Not for Rob, I would like to talk through the funding a little bit.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Rob.
Can you kind of walk me through the bonding and how that's gonna be, thank you, yeah, there it is.
Yep.
You asked.
So what, the thought behind that is when we go up for, well, we do it anytime. Every year we do a lease, right, for usually cars and everything else. What we do is just a lease for the same thing, only this time it'd be for the project money for the pool. And we extend out, I think it was around 10 years. We extended it out, but what it's gonna do, there's enough money left over in the quality of life fund. If the tax credits that come in for the community center aren't enough to pay off that debt, then the rest of it will be paid off by the quality of life fund. So it's all kind of self-contained. All the funding is really self-contained within that funding that's purposed for that.
What was the remainder of the quality of life from? Was that the library project that
Yeah.
ran over?
Right.
So it never sunset,
There's
project
sales tax, right, it
ended,
just
paid
keeps
for the
going.
bond, it kept
Right.
going, got
Yeah.
it.
Keeps
Okay.
going.
Yeah.
Good.
That's essentially what it is. And all we would need is, you're okay for us to write a term sheet for Glenn to get with the bank and bring back an approval for you guys.
This would be in the community center bond?
Community.
No,
it's
that one's
all-
already issued. This would just be a separate
This would be,
lease.
it's a whole separate on its own.
Completely left separate lease, right?
So
And
this
that,
is separate, this isn't tied to the community center, I guess.
No.
Okay, I thought we were.
I assumed since
Well, I
it's going
mean,
to quality, yeah.
the lease is separate from the community center bond issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the money's the
The
same.
fund's the same,
Yeah,
the
the funds
quality
are
of
the
life fund's the
same,
same,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Is there any other money that would be in this lease, or is this the only money that we're getting?
Right now, it'd be the only money in the lease. It was originally set up to where if you needed any furniture, equipment that goes into the community center, it would be wrapped up in that. But depending on how quick we move with it, we can do it in two phases, one with the equipment, one with the pool. Banks here are really easy to work with.
So, okay, so on that note then, if we did this, if we had to do two,
Yep.
Right, for the equipment for the community center and for this.
Right.
That, you've checked that sales tax still covers this
Yeah,
payment?
it does.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
And what is that payment? What is the,
For
Depends
the
on the amount.
300,000.
yeah, well, 336.
Yeah, that's around what it would be, probably 35,000 a
Okay,
year. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and the tax credits coming back are over 400.
700.
700, right, the original was 400, it's over 700, so it just all depends. That's actually not budgeted for any of the bond issues taken care of, it's already issued. So the tax credit's really coming in to fund the rest of what needs to happen in the community center and the pool. So it can cover both.
Okay.
That makes me feel better about this.
And the money that we have designated for this can't be used for anything else. It can only be used for this, for
Right.
quality of life, right?
So the last pro forma for the community center that we looked through,
Yep.
that changes now?
That changed a couple of reasons. One, sales tax went up a little bit, cost went down.
Right.
The cost went down because the interest rate on the bonds were a lot lower than what I had budgeted, and they were like 5%, came in at 3.5.
Right.
So that opened up some margin, and then,
It did.
right, and then anything we do with rec commissioner, how that thing's operated, kind of got easier too.
Yeah.
So the pro forma that we had ran off of was pretty conservative. And we're realizing better results because of that.
Okay. How much was left in the fund, in the quality of life fund?
The library bond is paying off over the next few years. Right now, I think there's around 128,000 in it,
Okay.
and it'll grow because the principal payment isn't until next year.
Right,
So that'll actually grow.
right.
The debt service is being funded with consistent revenues, lower than the actual revenue coming in, so there'll be a surplus through that process.
Okay. And I know the answers to a lot of these, but I just want to talk through them out loud.
Mhm.
So none of that remaining amount that was spillover from the library project was ever in the pro forma for the community center?
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay,
Because it virtually started with almost nothing.
right.
That's
So
right.
I'm just trying
That's
to
what
keep
we
them
saw in the
separate.
finance
Yep.
committee, that's right.
I'm just trying to say it out loud,
Yep.
so other people can hear me think, and
That's
also
exactly right, yeah.
sometimes people say, hey, Corey, you sound crazy, be quiet for a while, but no. Okay,
And the nice thing about it is the time it took it to rehab the community center, we were able to build that cash up
right.
within that quality of life.
So what remains in the quality of life takes care of about half?
Operations and debt service.
No, I mean,
Half of the pool.
half
Oh,
of the
half
pool.
full, yeah, right,
Okay,
that's right,
right,
yeah.
right. So
Yeah, that's
we're
right.
chasing 150,000 over 10 years,
Yeah, basically.
so 15,000 a year. And that 15,000, I already know the answer, but say it out loud just to make sure I'm right. That 15,000 is coming out of the existing operating budget that,
Correct.
for the pool, that they would no longer
Correct,
have the need for
Correct.
with the new
Yep.
warranty bottom of the pool.
yeah,
Got
that's
it.
right.
Makes sense to me.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other council discussion on this agenda item?
No, after Ben explaining it in more detail, I feel much more comfortable about $378,000. And it has to be done, and, I think we keep hearing over and over again, if we wait, things just keep getting more and more expensive. So, with that said, I make a motion to fund the pool repairs following the plan presented.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Do we also need a motion then to authorize you and Glenn to go out for a lease? No, this does that.
Bring back the lease for your approval.
Okay. Okay, next agenda item, train depot sublease. Roger, do you want to come up and present to the council?
Roger Boyd,
Sorry for the long meeting. You chose a great meeting.
510 Third Street. So I think you have a copy of the lease agreement that we have drawn up. This would be a sublease to Lawrence Model Railroad Club to lease the depot for 1 year. Need any other information?
Has this, been ran through our legal counsel? This sublease?
He's seen it. He didn't have any comments on it.
This doesn't affect any of our agreements already in place?
No.
Doesn't affect the lawsuits or anything?
That's what I was kind of getting at. No effect on those?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
Yeah.
he,
Shouldn't.
Can we hear a little bit about the Lawrence Model Railroad Club?
Well, it's still renting to a railroad company just this big. They have a program that not program, exhibition in Lawrence every year around Christmas, and they need some place to set up their sets to make sure they're working everything. I guess nobody has a garage or basement that they want to commit, so they're looking for a place to rent. So they can set it up and it'll be there semi-permanently.
Do they have a garden train?
A what?
A garden train.
I have no idea.
A garden train is one that's set up in a yard that runs.
Oh, no, they do not. It'll all be inside.
Any other questions for Roger?
It renews every year.
It can, yes.
It would have to be approved by the council each year for renewal?
I have no idea. Our lease says that if we want to sublease, we have to have the city's approval.
My only concern is how much of that is up in limbo right now, and we have no clue what that's gonna look like in a couple of years. It'd be nice to be able to review it
When do you,
annually.
Roger, when are they expecting an answer on this? When do they
Tonight.
need- Huh?
Tonight.
Tonight?
What's the referred sublease? What are you talking sublease?
Because we lease it to Santa Fe.
Yeah.
So they get to
Do
sublease
we
it.
own it?
Yeah.
We own it,
City owns
but
it.
we sublease it to Santa Fe.
Okay.
Or we lease it
The
to
way
Santa
I-
Fe and they
The way I was
sub.
picking that up was it was already leased to somebody else and we were subleasing it out again. That's the way I took it. I'm
No,
sorry.
we just have to approve
I got
any
you.
lease that they
I got
have.
you.
So it says it's for a term of 12 months, but it can be terminated with a 30-day notification by either party.
Okay, I missed that part. Where does it say that?
That's at the very bottom.
Need a motion?
Well, I wanna think this through.
You what?
Well, I don't see anything with the lawsuit that affects the depot.
No, it doesn't. But I just wanna make sure that we're not binded by something in perpetuity if things change in 3 years and we may want to have a different use for that. You guys even, you know what I'm saying?
We have a lease in perpetuity now.
Right. But if you had one in perpetuity, it would just be nice, I like the language in there that we would,
When you make the lease, can't you make it in there with a 60-day notice or something, that
It's 30-day.
30 days what they got?
But that would be from them,
Right.
not the city.
Yeah, I'm going the other direction.
Oh,
I mean, we're talking about the depot here. I mean,
Yes.
we've spent years being dragged through absolute nonsense. I want to be careful with this.
we've learned to tread lightly.
Any other questions for Roger? Or get public comment? Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Thanks, Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Council discussion?
Well, if it's gonna be a museum, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't disagree with the sublease. Again, it's just with the other issue we have is my only hesitation.
It's their lease, and they have it in perpetuity per Roger. I mean, that's true. You see the depot, you see a lease. We've been here before. I just want to think through this for a second.
Nothing in there that I can see that would tie it up, that connects it with anything else that's going on with the railroad.
No.
You don't think this does anything to the trail easement?
Sublease to, no, I don't see how it affects that at all. Nope.
I mean, I'll just say it. It looks fine. Yeah, you guys have the right to lease it and all that. I mean, it's your guys' prerogative, but aren't we kind of making a public statement here that we've given up on the depot being used for tourism use as far as the railroad's concerned, while all this is tied up in litigation?
Well,
That's what I'm kind of afraid
It
of.
hasn't been used for a while then, as far as that goes, but again, it's for a year, be terminated.
Right.
I mean, it's,
I know.
yeah,
But-
This is in addition to people who may come to use the train or run
Yeah,
the train.
no, I agree. I agree.
It's something they get to see.
I don't see a conflict.
No, there's not a conflict. It's just, that is what we're saying. I mean, that's,
Well,
so I see no issue with it as far as verbiage goes. Do we have to approve this at all?
Yeah. By our lease with them, we have to approve any
yes,
sublease.
under the terms of our lease.
Okay.
Any other council discussions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the rental agreement between Santa Fe and the Historical Society, so Lawrence Model Railroad Club.
I say,
Moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, Franklin County Rural Water District number 5 contract. Rob, I am gonna recuse myself just because I have a client that is in this district and will benefit from this decision.
I don't plan on using this thing.
Okay. Well, I was gonna hold it.
don't hit your thumb.
I'm gonna find something. Yeah, something.
Don't hit your thumb down. Be careful.
Thank you, council members. I know it's been a long meeting. I'll try to move through this quickly and be brief. I've invited Robin Dunn to join us this evening. She's the chairman for the Franklin County Rural Water District number 5. Ms. Dunn contacted me earlier this summer about the possibility of reconnecting their water service located at 1724 North 150 Road, which is the site of our old water treatment plant back when all the Baldwin's water came in from the wells at Spring Creek Lake. The service line was installed, my best guess is 20 plus years ago, 20 to 25 years ago, this service line was installed for Franklin 5. At that point in time, they had purchased the old stem pipe from us, and in an attempt to provide more volume and pressure to their customers in the immediate area, I believe was what the plan was for that. Ultimately, the standpipe idea did not work, and eventually it was removed. The service was shut off, and we went out and removed the meter. Ms. Dunn indicated to me during the meeting that they were in the process of installing some new infrastructure in the area and needed a stopgap until they can get that completed. They currently serve 10 customers plus or minus on the Douglas County side. We went out and looked at the pit, the site, everything's still there. The valves, the meter pit, the setter, everything's still in place and it still looks fine. The meter setter will need to be rebuilt because it will not accommodate a modern meter. But everything else out there should be fine. Franklin 5 has agreed to reimburse us for the cost of the meter, the backflow preventer, which we will in this time, and to rebuild the setter. contract you have in front of you is one that I put together. I took 2 or 3 of our current ones and kind of put something together that fit the needs of this request. They're asking us for a 5-year deal, give them time to complete their infrastructure project. The contract currently written is a 5-year deal with an evergreen provision, which allows each party time to evaluate and possibly extend if needed. The water rate in the contract is set at 110% of our actual cost from the city of Lawrence, which we calculate that on an annual basis. No minimums, no monthly minimum was included in dollars or gallons, but we did include a ceiling or not to exceed amount on the water side, so each party knew what to expect for planning purposes. The amounts are 20,000 gallons a day and 7.5 million gallons per year. I believe Franklin 5 will be far less than that. So as I said, right now, this is basically serving their 10 customers on the Douglas County side. Rob had indicated to me that if the council does approve this agreement, that they will install a valve at the Douglas County line, which will isolate their system once again from ours. So we will only be serving customers in the Douglas County area. I see this as a win-win for us in Franklin 5. The location of their tap is on the old rural line, but it's on the new plastic side. So it's in a very good location. It will allow us to move more water in that direction, which we desperately need to do. It will help Franklin 5 provide additional pressure and volume for their customers in the area. When drafting this contract, I was very mindful that Baldwin should treat Franklin 5 the way we would want them to treat us. And so we come to the determination that we should treat them as a wholesale customer, which they are, and not just another rural customer. I don't know if they get this infrastructure in place someday, we may need to take water from them, and we may be able to take water from them. And so staff's recommending that council approves this agreement and authorizes Glenn Rodden to sign off on this. If you do, I have everything purchased to do this. We can move on this pretty quick and probably have this within the next 2 weeks, getting water to them.
How long?
Probably within the next 2 weeks. I have everything purchased that we need to build the setter. I have the meter and I have the double check backflow preventer.
We do our own work, right?
Yes.
You're in Rock out there?
The service is already there.
Oh, the service is, yeah.
It's already there. So basically, we're just reconnecting their old service line from 20 years ago, is all we're doing. As I said, Ms. Dunn's here if you have any questions for the Franklin County rural water folks as well.
All right. Cool, thank you. Does anybody from the public have anything to say to this agenda item? If not, I will open up to council discussion.
I think it's a good deal for both parties.
I agree. Seems like a win-win.
It is.
Is it realistic that we'd be able to possibly get water from them in the near future? If we needed it in an emergency?
Are you asking me?
Whoever, yeah,
As soon as we get the new line run, you could.
yeah.
Right now, we're at capacity, and that's why I have to run all new lines up to Douglas County. And so after that, we would have
Yeah,
a lot of pressure, but right, we have plenty of water, we just don't have the capacity.
right.
Mhm.
I think when we were discussing 1900 Road, it's been a few years now, I think that was kind of the allure, was that we could potentially tie in there, and if we ever had an issue with our north feed from Lawrence, or it's probably comes from the west, you know, that we would have a second option. I think that's what we ended up with here, just in a different path.
I don't know that it makes any difference at this point in time with the contract that is written. Do you have any idea on a guess how much water we could receive back if we needed to?
We wouldn't be able to give you anything back until we got the new line run. And
Yes.
after we did, then it would be a guess. Depends on how many people we add to that line. Right now, we have a few people wanting it and we can't get any water, but we'll run a big enough line to have a lot of capacity up there.
What do you run, 3 inch, 4 inch,
It'll be a 6,
6 inch? Ooh,
well,
that'll work. That'll work.
up to Douglas County line.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. But it's gonna take us a few years and a lot of cash.
Need a motion?
I do.
I'll make the motion.
I move that we approve the water purchase agreement with Rural Water District Franklin number 5.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. You guys didn't have to use it.
Next agenda item is the property rezone. Russ.
Good evening. What you guys have in your packets is ordinance number 1496. This is for a property rezone. The property is located currently right behind the State Farm Insurance Agency and to the west of Baldwin Automotive, or as most people know those as Ed's. There used to be some trailers that were located in that area. It's been purchased. The applicant is petitioning to be rezoned to R2, which is multifamily, like duplexes. It's currently zoned as R-1B, which falls under single-family housing. This was heard at the Planning Commission on July 9th, and it passed with a 5-0 unanimous vote in favor of it. Here for any questions or concerns?
At one time, I think this was discussed, that there was quite a bit of underground service stuff there. Is that not true?
You know, I would have to get with some of the public works guys. I think they have addressed most of those things that you're talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're right, Jerry. When we were talking about the substation going over there, that was brought up, that there was a lot of infrastructure under there, but yeah, that sounds like.
A lot of that stuff has been capped off and taken care of.
This is the same site that we were talking about. It was one of the options for the substation, right?
A long time
A
ago.
long time ago,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So residential R1B, is that mobile homes?
No, no.
It's
So
R2.
No, I'm asking what it was prior. Those were the mobile homes that were there, right?
So there were mobile homes, but it was R-1B, which is single-family residential. But there was, years and years ago, before we had that, there was a trailer park in there. They had to do, this was before we actually had true zoning and codes and all those different things, where nowadays they would have to go through a conditional use permit, but they were like grandfathered in on that.
Now, that insurance building, it doesn't belong to that property, correct?
No, it's a separate parcel.
Okay.
So what is R1 dash duplexes? That's, I'm asking what we changed it from and what we're doing. I know it was 1-2.
So R-1B is single-family residential, like, so for instance, like your house, your property is zoned R-1B.
What would A be?
A would still be single-family, but it's with smaller constraints on like lot sizes.
Oh.
But we don't any lots that currently come into the city from like, since we adopted our zoning code in like 2010, are all coming in at R-1B.
Okay. And how many R2 lots are there?
So, you know, that's a great question. The thing has to be looked at is they're gonna have to get with the surveyor and have them kind of map it out and kind of see what they could actually make work on that property.
They'll have to do a plat and bring it back.
They would have to have it platted and those kinds of
Right.
things to make it come together.
I'm just asking out of curiosity.
I would say that there could be 3 or 4.
Is it enough to do a little cul-de-sac right there? And
Potentially, because,
that'd be cool.
so True Baker Street runs right behind the State Farm,
Right.
which we still have an 80-foot road right-of-way for Baker Street. So they could come in on Baker Street and shoot straight to the south and put in like a private drive, like, to make it work.
Yeah.
Are they gonna have any green space? You don't know, you don't have.
Yeah, that's all like, this is the first part of the whole deal. So once, if it were to get approved, then they would go on to the next step, and that would be, putting in preliminary plats and those kinds of things.
I don't have anything else.
Any other questions for us? All right, thanks, Russ.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, council discussion.
I mean, we've expressed that we need more multifamily housing, and, the struggle to find affordable housing in Baldwin, and this is the direction I think we need to go, so I'm all for this.
I do have a question for Russ, I forgot to ask. When it went through the planning commission, anybody show up, anybody, can you say?
So I can answer all those questions. So like I said earlier, July 9th was our planning commission meeting. We had nobody show up that had any questions or concerns. I did have a couple of emails from people, from citizens. They'd got notices in the mail, and I was just explaining to them what it meant. None of them had any issues or concerns. They just were, seeking information. So it seemed to go over really well as far as citizen-wise.
Who owns it? Who owns it?
Cody,
Cody, the guy that has the State Farm.
Thanks, Russ.
Yep.
Sorry,
No.
I always ask that, so.
No, it's good enough, yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you, Corey. If there's any lot in Baldwin I can think of that's vacant right now that fits two-family housing, it's that lot.
For sure.
Because that's a transition from commercial to single family.
Do we wanna do this without a plot, without seeing it?
You always
You
rezone
can't
without
do
a
this,
plat.
yeah.
Do what?
You always
You have to
rezone
rezone
before a
it
plat.
first.
Yeah, the plat comes later.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1496 as presented.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Julie?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Jerry? Motion passes 4-0. Final thing. Golf course fence
I'll wait for this one.
issue. So for the last 2 months, I've been talking to the golf course leadership about this. The neighbor to the east had put fence posts on city property.
How many?
I don't know how many. I didn't go out and count. So Stu actually brought it to my attention when he discovered it as well. We discussed, so the project was halted at that point. Started talking to the Golf Course Association about it and asked for recommendations from them. After that, they discussed with the property owner at that point, and in your packet, you guys were emailed a map of what the proposed solution was, which was moving all the fence posts onto their property with a portion of the pond inlet still fenced off, which does still encroach onto the golf course property. But that was something that the golf course had worked out with them. Is essentially this would be a similar thing to what we just did with Santa Fe, to where we would allow the Golf Course Association to sublease that small portion to the property owners. So that is what I know. Glenn, you can add anything. Andy, I know you're here on behalf of the golf course if they have any questions for this. So yeah, is there anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item?
I'm happy to answer questions, but I think you summarized things pretty well.
So what's the plan now?
The plan is the posts get moved on within their property lines,
Okay,
all the way up until the golf cart path crossing, which is the inlet for their pond, and then it goes up and over and back down.
so it goes across the pond dam.
No, it'll go,
No, the inlet to the pond. The pond dam's on the property owners. The inlet to their pond comes from the golf cart path.
the city property line goes just a chunk into that pond's drainage area.
So, my question is, why can't they put the fence up to the pond on either side?
I think the intent was to be able to fence off their pond to keep animals within their property, so they can't get out through the pond. I believe.
Okay, so what I'm looking at in this map here, that, I don't know how good this is, but where the pond's at, their property goes through what would be the west end of that pond, it looks like a little ways. Are they gonna come clear up to that dam for that little pond that belongs to the golf course?
Just a section of the little pond, some of that drainage basin area, and then, as I understand it,
You're
we
talking
would
about
sublease.
the draining basin area for the pond that belongs to the golf course.
Oh, well, the bridge separates the two, but the one onto the property owners, to the north, well, I guess to the east, the property line crosses a little chunk of that, just a little chunk of it. So I think what's proposed is that it'd be a straight line along their property, but they have to deviate around, yeah, so that's a way better picture. So turn around this way, so we're looking at it north-south.
Is there a map?
There,
That's why I'm having Amber pull it up.
that's west.
Okay, what I'm
Do
asking
you mind me being here?
is there,
Okay.
I gotta pull up my email.
around this
Yes,
end, or are
yes.
they
At
gonna
this
go
point,
clear up
mine
around?
You just go around the end.
Where's that drawing for that?
I don't know if did we see an actual drawing for that, or was this a map that we got on our email?
There's a map on the email.
And it just barely trickles just over the pond there.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
fence would just,
It's about 35 feet, actually,
linear or square feet?
Say what?
from the point to where the boundary line is.
Mm-hmm.
About 35 feet of their pond.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Is it-
The BGA totally respects the council's right to say, hey, we're not gonna grant that, that's within your purview. We were comfortable that the solution we reached would not interfere with our golfers getting across the dam as they've always done. The fence will stay to the east off of where our golf carts go. But that's just our recommendation. Take it for what it's worth.
Now, rumor has it that the golf course people are gonna help them move them posts out of there, is that correct?
We have a guy with a tractor who's handy, and we've offered to
You
assist.
have a sheriff with a tractor who's handy, is that
Possibly.
what you're trying to tell me?
Possibly. We like to be good neighbors, we try to help.
So, we do have an ordinance, we talked about this, we do have an ordinance that if there's any city property that is for lease or sale, that it has to be advertised.
This isn't for lease though.
You what?
This
Well,
isn't for lease. This is allowing the golf course to sublease it, just like we did with the depot.
It's city property.
We're not leasing it.
We just did the
We
depot.
just did it for the,
We just did the depot, the exact same thing.
can't use that for this when we just did it for the depot. This is a sublease. This is them leasing from the golf association, not from the city.
so is there a thing in their lease with us that says that they can sublease it?
They are allowed to do anything that we give them authority to do under the lease.
But doesn't that have to be in a written lease?
Yeah, we would have to bring back forward a written sublease for the council to approve, just like we just did
For the golf course?
for the depot, yes.
No, not for the depot, for the golf course.
He's saying like the depot, it was just like the depot. where they have language in their lease that says they can sublease. We would have to amend ours with the golf course if we went this route. Is that what I'm hearing?
We would have to approve the sublease that the golf course does with that.
But the question being proposed is, do we have to change the language in the golf course's lease saying that that's allowed?
That I
Now,
don't know. Andy, do you know that?
No, I assume there's nothing in there about subleasing now?
I don't think there is.
Actually, there is.
Is there?
Is there?
What does it
There
say?
is a clause in there, all it says is they have the ability to sublease, it doesn't say all or part or whatever, it just says they have the ability
Sounds
to
good.
sublease, that's all it
So
says.
then they don't even have to get our approval.
I think it says with approval, it's very similar, I think, to the
Okay.
train
Is the
depot.
golf course plotted?
One has one
Is the
big,
golf course plotted?
not for
Not-
housing
not
or
that.
anything.
No, it's just one.
Just
It was
one
farmland
big
before this.
Big parcel.
Huh?
Just one big parcel. It's not platted like.
Yeah.
It was a
Lot of
farm,
lot.
there used to be barns on it and stuff. There's just a bunch of farmland.
So they will come up on your lease. Do you get compensated for that piece of ground? I mean, you don't have to pay so much money for it, or?
I don't believe so.
That's between them and the property owner.
That was
Sounds
not,
like we just
that
have-
was not our ask when we assumed the property. When we contacted the property owners, was looking for a payment.
It's kind of like with Roger, I was trying to be careful not to overstep, but also ask questions, but I think all, for our purposes, is that we give them the autonomy.
This, you said you knew about this 2 months ago. Why was this not ever brought to the council?
Because I was working with the golf association to see what they wanted to do. Jerry, they're the leaseholders. So until I had all the information, because it's changed within the last 2 weeks on what was going to be presented to the council. And
So-
based on what the golf association wanted to do.
So what does Stu have to say about this?
You can
Is
ask
there a
them.
permit, is there a permit for fencing?
They would have to obtain one.
Stu,
They're required. Stu,
what do you think, Stu?
you want to step up here?
Oh, I can. It's certainly too long anyway. Well, quite a while back, the applicant was advised to, turn in a permit, and it said, obviously our fencing requirements have to be on your own property line, or it stated in there in the email that, or provide other documents that say it can be wherever it is, so to speak. So you get a fence permit here in town, you have to have your fence on your own property line, or, which would be kind of rare, but you'd have to have supporting document that says, in this case, if the golf course is to lease them and the council approves it land to build a fence on, in order to complete that application, I would have to have a copy of that signed by whomever needs to sign it. There's a little bit of extra liability as far as leasing water. Probably not a whole lot different than it is right now. I mean, somebody could fall in the pond on the golf course as easy as they could potentially fall on it if somebody else has control of it. But if there's ever an accident on the pond, you go through all these leasing stuff, you sure hope that your paperwork's in order. Because if something was to happen, legal mechanisms will climb the food chain pretty fast. So, but anyway, as far as building official, for me to complete the permit, I need the application, and I would need the lease agreement for that piece of property, probably the legal description of it, those types of things, and I could complete the permit. So, any other questions for me?
Does that have to be surveyed?
I would suspect so. You'd have to have some type of legal description for it. From my perspective, just using measuring devices, it's probably around 3,000 square feet, maybe 3,500, somewhere in that area of property. So your lease agreement and your legal description, you'd want it to be fairly accurate to protect everybody involved. But as far as permitting status, if I have that and the council approval, then I will be okay with releasing the permit for it. So, any other questions?
What does this do if either party decides to sell that property? I mean, I can see.
Well, that would be,
problems.
that would mean that the lease with the golf association would be terminated. So they wouldn't hold the lease anymore, which would mean the sublease would be terminated.
Right.
So then
So if you did away with the lease for the golf course, then you'd have to sell the piece that's gonna be surrounded to the person who's got the fence?
no. No, the leases can go away and you can sell the property. You'd have to disclose that there's a fence over the property line, or have the fence removed, or as a property owner, cut down the fence that's encroaching on your property.
Pertaining to that, you all, except Jerry, you didn't have an email listed on the site. You all got what I consider the most recent copy of our lease from me today. I don't think that's what was in your packets, so there's a little difference on the notice required and so on. Jerry, I can give you a hard copy if you want.
Please.
Any other questions for Stu or Andy right now?
I'd like to come up and speak.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Susan Pitts, 1115 Jersey. I apologize, this became way more complicated than I would have ever imagined. We just wanted a fence to keep our dogs from harassing golfers, and now here we are. The fence is gonna be all on our property line except for a piece where it slopes down near the pond. And it's just a weird piece of land, and it's actually, as far as liability, I think it'll keep people from going into our pond from the golf course. Because trust me, I look outside and find
Thank you, sir.
random children at my pond a lot, which I don't typically have a problem with, but it is a liability. And, you know, we're trying to be good neighbors, we're putting in, you know, gates so golfers can still come retrieve their balls. This isn't, you know, anything anti-golf course by any means. We just want to be
Make
able
dogs
to,
vicious.
just want to let our dogs run and play and not bother any golfers. And
It goes back to the question, why can't you put the fence up to the pond on both sides?
I'm trying to picture what you're talking about.
Well, your pond juts out a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you do your fence like that and leave that part of the pond open?
Well, we're not running the fence through the pond.
I know, but that would still be on your property though. Your fence would be on your property.
It's a matter of the slope there. Brian's been mowing and maintaining that. It gets really slick because it's wet. It's just, we didn't want to pass that maintenance onto the golf course. So it just made,
I just think that it would be
they mow
easier.
with a giant tractor, and he's got a mower that's more,
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking that way it would still, everything would be on your property. And it wouldn't have to go onto the city property.
Yes,
They would have to, you would have to cross the pond with a fence. You'd have to, the fence would go across the pond at
It's
some
a
point.
simple process.
right.
Right.
It's a simple process.
I can't get my email to pull up. If you guys need the map, I have it on my phone. I can't get my email to pull up on my.
You can buy 16, 18, or 20-foot cattle panels and put it across there. If you need them too high, you can make them too high.
Well, we're trying to make it aesthetically pleasing because it is facing a golf course, Jerry. I don't want to just put up cattle panels.
You won't?
I don't want to put up cattle panels like you just suggested, and I don't think that the golf course would want me to do that either. We're trying to make something that's going to look nice and at the same time accomplish the mission.
The cattle panels would not be exposed as you're trying to make it sound. They would be right straight across the pond, right straight through. It's not anything around the pond or anything like that. It would be right straight across, like she's talking about, straight across. I understand both scenarios. I understand, and I've, and Casey showed me a picture of how you're gonna do it, and that works. But what she's asking is why don't you go straight through?
I don't know if that question's even relevant, because I think what we're tasked with is giving the golf course the autonomy to make this decision for themselves.
I agree.
Well, the question is if it's going to be on city property or not. That's the original question.
I mean, if you wanna pass on that extra maintenance to the golf course over, you know, a little bit of land that's technically city property,
Susan, I do have one question for you.
sure.
Why did you not bring this to the council?
I work a lot, Jerry. My husband was playing this fence out, and I assumed he did his due diligence.
You what?
And I know he had talked to the BGA, but obviously he didn't get a permit, and that's why we're here.
I'm gonna go back to, it's the golf course that leases the property. If they're okay with it, I'm fine letting them make the decision on the land that they have leased for the last 20-some years and will continue to lease for my entire lifetime. So,
I mean, is there anybody from the golf course that's suggesting we run a fence over the pond?
I can only speak for the board. I, like the council, I don't speak for our entire population, just
Sure.
the board consensus. I know there's probably a member or two out there who don't like it being on the dam at all, but the board is happy with this.
Hey, Sandy, I'm gonna have you step forward because I got
Yes, sir.
a question. Thanks, Susan.
Mhm.
I mean, you're an elected board, right? You're a
Uh-huh.
membership, right? You're a governing body just like the city council is for the
Sure.
city.
And we've certainly communicated with members who had concerns about this, yeah.
And this is the consensus and the agreement that your board has came up with for that governing body.
Yeah.
And I don't see the problem. Just like we give Santa Fe the autonomy to lease an actual building to other people, I don't see the problem with giving the autonomy to the golf association to do the same thing.
So we all do understand that this will be a lease?
It would be a
An agreement-
sublease.
An agreement with the golf course and the landowner that's putting the fence up.
Correct,
This piece of ground is not for sale, is that correct?
correct.
So when we draw up a sublease, it'll be the property owner's job to make sure that's surveyed and it's outlined correctly, or is the city
Yeah, I
gonna do
mean,
that?
No, you'd have to have a description for that
Okay.
specific area.
I know in if we're putting this on paper, it's gonna have to be specific, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Andy? Again? Sorry, Andy.
It's okay. I thought I was done with long meetings when I left the school board, and
No.
here I am.
It's because you're here that this is a long.
Right, that's what they kept telling me on school board too, yeah.
Yeah, it was never this long before you showed up.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Uh-huh.
Any other council discussion on this?
I have nothing. I think that if the board's good with it, if nobody in public comment has anything to say about it, why would we deviate from what's recommended by the people who are affected by it? And I think that's the question that we're tasked with is, they lease it. It's land within their lease.
I think.
Otherwise, what's a lease?
I think if it would have gone through the correct channels, we wouldn't have been here in the first place.
Well, I mean, do we need to do a public scolding, or do we need to make a decision? I mean, that's,
Maybe
Well,
both.
I'm just saying that.
do we realize that our job to scold people?
I'm not scolding anybody, but, I mean, what if somebody else wants a chunk of the golf course?
That would be
Are they
on their
gonna-
governing body.
Okay.
Well, I think that, I mean,
I don't buy that, Casey, that's city property.
It's city property, but we lease it,
But we can drop the lease anytime we want to.
not without the proper notices.
when we say a chunk of city property, I accept that argument when the posts were pretty jettied far out from the property line. That property line's confusing. It was made, I think, along an old hedge tree row, and those trees are now all over hell. So I see how if that was the issue, that they were taking, okay, well, there's our fence post, now that's city property, now anybody can just go out and put fence posts up and put up city property. Okay, they're moving the fence posts. Now we're talking about a piece of mud that you have to weed eat. I'm kind of, I don't know where else to go. I'll make a motion.
Are we setting a precedent here?
I don't think we are.
So if somebody on the other side comes along and wants to build out on the golf course and put in a garage?
They would have to go through the golf association, and I think a fence is different than a garage.
And
It's
I'll be honest, if you don't mind.
Absolutely,
Precedent is
please.
it's why we ended up where we are, because we could have said, let it stand, we'll deal with everything. In the end, we decided we didn't want to set a precedent that encroachment on the golf course was acceptable. That's why we talked to the people involved and worked out a deal where we don't think that happens significantly.
If it were a situation where the posts were out in the middle of the 7 fairway and, it's like take it or leave it, and okay, I guess we'll just lease it to them now, like, okay, that's a different argument, but that's not what's happened. The posts were too far, as per the golfers that they've had their own personal discussions with. They were moved back. Now we're dealing with this awkward piece of land. And, I mean, if it's no skin off the board's back, what do we care if we lease it? I don't want to weed eat it.
I'm not gonna weed eat it. But I'm not going over there and get my golf ball either, because I'll play golf.
Maybe you should.
I've got a $1,000 set of clubs. Okay, what do you want, Casey?
A motion.
I move that I lost it.
Give the golf association authority to.
Okay, yeah, I can wing that. I move that we give the Golf Association authority to sublease the land as presented.
Is there a second? No second? If not, motion fails. And I do intend to bring this back the next meeting to have further discussions. Council committee reports, budget and finance, Corey.
You can call me Scott, he's not here. We did not meet since the last meeting. Next budget meeting, we kind of need to talk about that.
Friday.
It will be Friday, we will have
Friday,
one.
7:30.
Friday, 7:30, second floor city hall.
Alright. Community development, you again.
We already discussed the two of the issues that were there. That one being the food trucks and the common consumption. The only other thing that we discussed was the community center update, of which I think you're more in the loop on. It sounds like they're finishing painting trim, and I've seen some pictures. It looks incredible. The floor's down, the basketball goal lines are down, everything's all set. They're ready for furniture. They're ready to polish up some things, but some signage has to go up still. If you get a chance to pop by there, it's pretty exciting. Next meeting,
What's the completion date, Corey?
I think,
We get temporary occupancy still
next week.
this week.
Again.
They're handing over the keys, I think, soon, like within a week.
We're planning
The
on,
rec moves in September.
the The furniture doesn't come till the last week of September, September 22nd. So we intend to have the open house October 5th.
So the AV should be done by then.
The AV should be done by start of September, beginning of September.
So
So are we gonna
let's talk
put
about
in
it.
there
When are we
that-
moving?
So we'll bring that next council meeting, but we're hoping, well, depending, the only problem we have is chairs.
Furniture.
We push our chairs into that room
We
every time.
can actually do that if we want.
And we've
I'm
thought,
not pushing them down the street to 8th and.
I got a
whatever.
truck.
yeah, so we've talked about putting temporary chairs in there, and we go on our first meeting in September in there. So,
Oh.
that's hopefully what we do. I wanna see how AV comes, but hopefully our first meeting in September is in that space.
So do we have a contract with the rec yet,
That was passed in January.
with the way they're gonna do it?
The-
The structure of the rentals?
The rentals and all
The
of that?
contract gives them authority to set the rental rates that the council passed in January.
Okay.
I think they brought it to
I'm
CDC
getting
to have some,
questions on that parking already.
Okay.
The people that live there in the apartment buildings
Yeah.
are already wanting to know, are these people that go there going to park in our parking lot? And
They should, I mean, technically that's private property, so it's up to the private property owner to put up signage or, you know, which I think there already is signage.
Yeah, there's
in
signage.
the report.
There is, yeah.
But that's private parking, that's why we had to build all that parking down the side of the street.
to finish, I think that the, where was I at with the?
You started talking about furniture and then I hijacked you.
you're gonna have your next meeting soon.
I don't
August
remember.
13th. August 13th.
But anyway, yeah, it's coming along, it's, there, like I said, keys are about ready to be handed over. Oh, we were talking about, council meetings going on in there, so we just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got. Next meeting is when?
I don't know.
Does this count as our month? I think this did count as
Yeah.
our month, but is there anything
Yeah.
pressing that we need to have another one, or
No.
if we need to do an impromptu one, we can? Okay, so then I'll say September 23rd, 4 o'clock, second floor, City Hall.
Okay.
I'm guessing we'll probably sneak one in before that and announce it.
Public safety, Susan.
We met on July 17th and had further discussions about livestock on parcels of 3+ acres. Glenn brought forth the idea of a conditional use permit, and we're just gonna have ongoing discussions and hopefully some kind of recommendation for the council. We meet next August 13th at 4 o'clock.
Public Works, Julie.
We have not met. Our next meeting is this Thursday, the 8th, at 9 o'clock.
And is there any strategic planning schedule? I know you guys haven't met.
No, we haven't met, and I haven't heard from Ryan or anything.
I haven't either.
So, there's no meetings planned at this time.
Okay. City administrator, staff comments? Anything?
Oh, nothing further.
All right,
Next meeting is the 20th.
20th.
I won't be here.
That puts us down to 3. Okay. We're fine at 3. That's a quorum. So. We just can't lose anybody
Still be
else.
gone.
Scott's still gonna be gone?
No,
Oh,
Susan's gone,
oh,
so
okay.
that's fine. Okay. We will march along now. Any other comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make
We
motion to adjourn.
Second. Been moved and seconded by all 4 council members. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.